Chapter 2437. As the saying went, imagination is beautiful, but reality is cruel. After a few moments, Zhang Yunfei finally understood the meaning of this saying. Destructive celestial thunder. The immortal technique, the destructive immortal thunder, that Zhang Yunfei cast with his immortal sword was naturally incomparable to the one he cast earlier. It was comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial's attack. It was much more powerful compared to when he did not have the celestial sword. Sword-wielding art. In the face of Zhang Yunfei's celestial technique, the destructive celestial thunder, Duan Lingtian tossed the celestial sword in his hand away. In the eyes of the onlookers, it looked like a casual toss of the celestial sword. Similar to Zhang Yunfei, Duan Lingtian was also using the same technique. However, before he tossed the celestial sword away, he had infused his energy into the celestial sword through the assist-type divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic. For this reason, the sword-wielding art he cast this time was much more powerful than the sword-wielding art he had cast before. In fact, it was much more powerful than the sword-wielding art. Boom! The destructive celestial thunder struck with a thunderous force as though it could annihilate everything. Swoosh! The immortal sword tore through the sky like a newborn calf that wasn't afraid of a tiger, and it moved to greet the immortal lightning of destruction that approached menacingly and with a vast impetus. After a few moments, the celestial sword and the destructive celestial thunder collided again. However, this time, there was no brief pause. The previous pause was due to the strength of the celestial sword and the destructive celestial thunder. For this reason, the two of them were in a stalemate for a brief moment before they canceled each other out. This time, when the celestial sword rose into the air, it exuded a force that seemed capable of destroying heaven and earth. It was even more powerful than the destructive celestial thunder. Boom, 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 boom. Waves of earth-shattering noises spread out, and terrifying waves of air were compressed into waves of shock waves that swept out in all directions, sweeping across the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Even the destructive celestial thunder could not withstand a single blow from this force. It was instantly suppressed and annihilated. Wow! Zhang Yunfei's body shook when his celestial technique was broken. His face instantly turned as pale as a sheet of paper, and then he couldn't help but spit out a large mouthful of blood. Blood stained the ground, dazzling and eye-catching. How is this possible? The destructive immortal thunder that I just used is comparable to the attack of a 5th tribulation bodiless celestial. When Zhang Yunfei looked at Duan Lingtian again, his eyes were filled with disbelief. He could not accept this fact. Pumph! Zhang Yi scoffed when he heard Zhang Yunfei's words. He said indifferently, Duan Lingtian can even kill a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. You're just an eminent celestial with strength comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. The scene of Duan Lingtian killing Pei Kunshan, a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial, was still vivid in Zhang Yi's mind. Therefore, he was not surprised that Duan Lingtian was able to destroy Zhang Yunfei's celestial technique with a single strike. What? He killed a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial? Zhang Yunfei trembled when he heard Zhang Yi's words. A hint of fear could be seen in his eyes when he looked at Duan Lingtian. He did not expect this. He did not expect this purple-clad young man to be so powerful. Damn it! Who spread the news about the heaven-ranked treasure vault left behind by the green lotus sword celestial, Li Bai? Who would have thought that Duan Lingtian, an eminent celestial from the Saint Province realm who obtained the celestial sword, is capable of killing a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial? Damn it! Damn it! At this moment, Zhang Yunfei could no longer muster up any fighting spirit in front of Duan Lingtian. If it was before Duan Lingtian had destroyed his destructive immortal thunder, he would not have believed Zhang Yi's words. However, he had no choice but to believe it now. How did you find this place? Moreover, when you saw me taking out the celestial sword, you recognized me as someone from the Saint Province realm. You even know my name. Where did you hear this from? Duan Lingtian asked in a deep voice as he stared at Zhang Yunfei fiercely. Although he already had a vague guess in his heart, he still wanted to confirm it. When Duan Lingtian had asked Zhang Yunfei about this, Zhang Yunfei had completely ignored him. However, now that Zhang Yunfei had witnessed Duan Lingtian's strength, he did not dare to be negligent. He quickly replied, I heard about this from someone else. It said that a heaven-ranked treasure vault left behind by a great overarching golden celestial has appeared. Moreover, the great overarching golden celestial is Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial from Yen Huang realm. The news also said that there are 3 people in the heaven-ranked treasure vault who possess celestial supreme treasures. The 3 people are Zhang Yi from Yen Huang realm, Duan Lingtian, and Han Xuanai from the Saint Province realm. Zhang Yunfei did not dare to hide the truth from Zhang Yunfei. It must be Lu Xia. As soon as Zhang Yunfei finished speaking, Han Xuanai said with a dark expression on her face, apart from her, it's impossible for anyone to know my name and brother Ling Tian's. Lu Xia. Zhang Yi's eyes flashed coldly as killing intent surged out of his body. Although he had a good temper, he could not help but fly into a rage when he found out Lu Xia had betrayed them after leaving the heaven-ranked treasure vault. Lu Xia was trying to get them killed. It's really her. At this moment, the guess in Duan Lingtian's heart was confirmed. However, he still had a calm expression on his face as though he was not angry because of this matter. However, was this really the truth? Sword-wielding technique. Duan Lingtian raised his hand, and the celestial sword that had returned to his hand shot out again. This time, not only did it contain the same amount of power as before, but it was also a preemptive strike. Zhang Yunfei did not expect Duan Lingtian would suddenly make a move. His expression changed drastically as he hastily waved his celestial sword in an attempt to stop Duan Lingtian from attacking him. Unfortunately, his reaction was too slow. Spurt. A soft sound rang in the air as Zhang Yunfei's glabella was pierced. Blood gushed out from the wound. Even if Zhang Yunfei's reaction was fast, he would not be able to escape death if Duan Lingtian wanted to kill him. After all, even if he had a celestial sword, his strength was only comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. However, Duan Lingtian's current strength was comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. If Duan Lingtian had used the 4th stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword, Duan Lingtian's strength would be comparable to a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. For this reason, Zhang Yunfei's death was justified. Sush. As soon as Zhang Yunfei was killed by Duan Lingtian, Zhang Yi's expression changed drastically. He did not expect Duan Lingtian would suddenly attack and kill Zhang Yunfei. What's wrong? Duan Lingtian immediately noticed the change in Zhang Yi's expression. He looked at Zhang Yi with a puzzled expression on his face. He did not know why Zhang Yi was behaving like this. Could it be that Zhang Yi did not want Zhang Yunfei to die? It's nothing. It's nothing. Although Zhang Yi shook his head, a hint of fear and anxiety could be seen in the depths of his eyes. HM? Duan Lingtian frowned when he saw this. He could tell Zhang Yi had something to say. It's nothing. Upon seeing Duan Lingtian's reaction, Zhang Yi shook his head and said, I just remembered that when you killed Zhang Yunfei, his seniors must have received the recording as well. However, they can't do anything to you since they can't find you. Minor-major mirror image talisman? The first thing that came to Duan Lingtian's mind was the minor-major mirror image talisman in the Saint Province realm. If a person had a minor mirror image talisman on him, when he was killed, the scene before his death would be transmitted to the major mirror image talisman and displayed in the form of a mirror image. However, when he died, I didn't sense the aura of a Dao talisman on him. Duan Lingtian muttered to himself. Although Duan Lingtian's voice was not loud, Zhang Yi still heard him clearly. Although the minor-major mirror image talisman isn't called the minor-major mirror image talisman in Yen Huang realm, it's a very low-level technique. In Yen Huang realm, there are Dao talisman masters who can inscribe the Dao talisman on a person's body. When the person dies, the Dao talisman will transmit the mirror image talisman to another person. Moreover, it won't leave any traces behind, Zhang Yi said. Don't worry. The Beyond Heaven secret zone is huge. They won't be able to find you. Zhang Yi added. They won't be able to find me. What about you? When he died just now, the mirror image recorded by the talisman on his body probably included you as well, right? Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes as he said, His senior must have recognized you as well, right? At this moment, Duan Lingtian finally understood why Zhang Yi had lost his composure when Zhang Yunfei was killed. It doesn't matter. Zhang Yi smiled self-deprecatingly. At most, I won't return to the Celestial Masters sect after I leave the Beyond Heaven secret zone. Don't tell me there's no place for me in this world? If you're more valuable than Zhang Yunfei, does that mean the Celestial Masters sect won't make things difficult for you even if they find out you're involved in Zhang Yunfei's death? Duan Lingtian asked as his eyes flashed. Of course. Zhang Yi nodded. That's why Zhang Yunfei dared to say he wanted to kill me earlier. Although my status in the Celestial Masters sect isn't as high as his, I'm still considered one of the best among the younger generation in the Celestial Masters sect. I've also inscribed the Tao Talisman on my body. As long as I die, the mirror image talisman will be transmitted to my senior in the Celestial Masters sect. However, even if news of Zhang Yunfei killing me reaches the Celestial Masters sect, the Celestial Masters sect will at most punish him. Chapter 2438. That was in the past. Upon hearing Zhang Yi's words, Duan Lingtian could not help but remind him, don't forget that apart from possessing a celestial supreme treasure, you also possess an offensive divine ability from a Devata realm. As long as you master the 5th sword of the 13 green lotus swords, it'll be equivalent to mastering a divine ability from a Devata realm. At that time, you'll be able to comprehend the assist-type divine ability passed down in the Celestial Masters sect and master the Celestial Method, the destructive Celestial Thunder. When you become an eminent Celestial, your strength will be comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless Celestial. Duan Lingtian said. Right now, I'm not qualified to comprehend the assist-type divine ability that has been passed down in the Celestial Masters sect for generations, nor am I qualified to cultivate the immortal technique, destructive immortal thunder, which has been passed down in the Celestial Masters sect for generations. Zhang Yi smiled bitterly. Don't overestimate me. I'm not overestimating you. Duan Lingtian continued to say, let me ask you, if you master the 5th sword of the 13 green lotus swords and become an eminent celestial, your strength will be comparable to a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial. At that time, if you return to the Celestial Masters sect, will the people from the Celestial Masters sect look for trouble with you because of Zhang Yunfei's death? That won't happen. Zhang Yi thought to himself for a moment before he shook his head and smiled wryly. It's not difficult to become an eminent celestial, but the first 5 swords of the 13 green lotus swords aren't easy to comprehend. In this regard, Zhang Yi was quite self-aware. You said it yourself? There's no need to worry about not having a place for you in this vast world. At most, you won't have to return to the Celestial Masters sect before you master the first 5 swords of the 13 green lotus swords. If you master it, you can return to the Celestial Masters sect. At that time, the Celestial Masters sect won't punish you for Zhang Yunfei's death. Duan Lingtian said. That's the only way. Zhang Yi nodded. Right now, he had no other choice. Brother Lingtian, Lu Xia is too much. I didn't expect her to be so despicable. At this time, Han Xuanai said to Duan Lingtian angrily. I didn't expect that she would do that. Hearing Han Xuanai's words, Duan Lingtian thought of Lu Xia, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. When he first met Lu Xia, he really felt that Lu Xia was a good person. But who would have thought that one could not judge a book by its cover? Unknowingly, Duan Lingtian's face tightened as he clenched his fists tightly. If he saw Lu Xia again, he would not show mercy. I'm afraid many bodiless celestials have gathered outside the heaven-rank treasure vault left behind by the green lotus sword celestial. Zhang Yi said with a solemn expression. His tone was filled with fear. Han Xuanai nodded. She felt the same way. Since Lu Xia had spread the news, Zhang Yunfei and the other bodiless celestials must not be the only ones who had heard about it. Even the bodiless celestials must have heard about it and rushed over. However, since they could not enter the heaven-rank treasure vault, they could only wait outside. Let's continue. Duan Lingtian did not dwell on this topic. He called out to Han Xuanai and Zhang Yi as he prepared to proceed to the next trial. He had already guessed there would be many bodiless celestials gathered outside the heaven-rank treasure vault. However, since things had already come to this, there was nothing he could do about it. The only thing he could do now was to raise his strength as much as possible before he left the heaven-rank treasure vault. He wanted to be able to protect himself from the bodiless celestials who were like wolves and tigers after he left the heaven-rank treasure vault. While Duan Lingtian was about to proceed to the next trial, more and more people gathered outside the heaven-rank treasure vault left behind by the green lotus sword celestial, Li Bai. Naturally, only bodiless celestials were guarding outside. Most of the people who were not bodiless celestials had entered the heaven-rank treasure vault. Somewhere in the beyond heaven secret zone. In the void, an inexplicable force converged to form a constantly changing image, like a mirror image. The image was the scene of Zhang Yunfei, the disciple of the Celestial Master's sect, being killed by Duan Lingtian. Zhang Yunfei had cast the celestial technique, the matchless celestial thunder, with a domineering aura. However, in the end, it could not block the sword of the purple-clad young man. Who's he? He's just an eminent celestial, but his strength is comparable to a sixth tribulation bodiless celestial. At this moment, an old man could be seen standing in front of the constantly changing image. The old man's appearance was quite similar to Zhang Yunfei's, especially his nose, which was exactly the same. He was none other than Zhang Yunfei's grandfather, one of the two great guardians of the Celestial Master's sect, the left guardian of Dharma, Zhang Chuhi. He was also the strongest person in the Celestial Master's sect, one of the 3 strongest people below the 9 tribulation bodiless celestial. The strongest person in the Celestial Master's sect was a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial. Below him were 3 8 tribulation bodiless celestials. Among the 3 8 tribulation bodiless celestials, one was the sect leader of the Celestial Master's sect, and the other 2 were the 2 guardians of the Celestial Master's sect. I don't care who you are. I, Zhang Chuhi, will kill you for killing my grandson. Looking at the purple-clothed young man in the mirror image, Zhang Chuhi's throat moved a little as he unhurriedly spat out these words. His voice was filled with killing intent. As soon as he spoke, the temperature in the surroundings seemed to drop by a few degrees. This person? He seems familiar. Zhang Chuhi's eyes were bloodshot, and his face was filled with anger. His gaze quickly fell on one of the other 2 people in the mirror image. It was a young man who looked familiar to Zhang Chuhi. After a while, Zhang Chuhi finally remembered that this young man was also a disciple of the Celestial Master's sect. Moreover, not only did he watch with folded arms, he seemed to recognize the purple-clothed young man who killed his grandson. Damn it! Damn it! Colluding with outsiders to kill a fellow disciple. Zhang Yi, this is unforgivable. This is unforgivable. At this moment, Zhang Chuhi's fury was no longer only vented on Duan Lingtian. He even directed a portion of his fury at Zhang Yi. He wished he could tear Zhang Yi into 1,000 pieces as well. Zhang Chuhi was the strongest person from the Celestial Master's sect who had entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone. However, even though he knew who killed his grandson, he couldn't do anything to that person. Unless he could find that person in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. However, was that even possible? Zhang Chuhi knew it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack if he wanted to find the person who had killed his grandson in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. As long as he returns to Yanhuang realm, I'll be able to stop him. As long as I can stop him, I'll be able to find out who killed Fei and avenge Fei. Soon after, Zhang Chuhi made up his mind. 2.5 years later, once he sensed the entrance of the Beyond Heaven secret zone in Yanhuang realm, he would immediately leave the Beyond Heaven secret zone and wait for Zhang Yi to take the bait. There are still 2.5 years left. I'll try to obtain 1 or 2 celestial supreme treasures in these 2.5 years. The moment Zhang Chuhi thought of this, he left in a flash to search for the Earth-rank treasure vault in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. After all, he had entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone for the celestial supreme treasures. In a human-rank treasure vault in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. Brother! A young man who looked exactly like Zhang Yunfei stared at the shattered soul bead in his hand. His eyes widened, and a murderous aura surged from his body, ready to burst out at any moment. The young man was dressed in a white robe with golden trimmings. He looked exactly like Zhang Yunfei. He was none other than Zhang Yunfei's twin brother, the strongest person among the younger generation in the Celestial Masters sect. Zhang Yunteng. Zhang Yunteng did not expect to be greeted with such bad news as soon as he entered the human rank treasure vault and obtained the next clue about the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial. His twin brother, Zhang Yunfei, was dead. Moreover, even if his younger brother was killed, he wouldn't know who killed him. The only way he could find the culprit was if he could find his grandfather, the left guardian of Dharma, one of the two great guardians of the Celestial Masters sect. Because once his younger brother was killed, his grandfather would receive the mirror image of his younger brother's death in time and would know who killed his younger brother. I don't care who you are, which force you're from, or which realm you're from. You'll die for killing my brother. You'll die for sure. While muttering to himself, Zhang Yunteng's voice gradually became louder and louder. It was filled with an extreme chill, causing the human-grade treasure trove to seemingly turn into a land of ice in an instant. Naturally, Duan Lingtian was unaware of this. At this moment, Duan Lingtian, Han Xuanai, and Zhang Yi had successfully obtained the inheritance left behind by Li Bai, the Green Lotus Sword Celestial. Half a year had passed in just a blink of an eye. Why hasn't anyone come out yet? It's been half a year. So many people have gone in, but none of them have come out? The heaven-ranked treasure vault left behind by a great overarching golden celestial is so terrifying? Don't tell me all of them died in there? Outside the underground palace where the heaven-ranked treasure vault was left behind by Li Bai, the Green Lotus Sword Celestial, was located. A group of bodiless celestials looked at each other in confusion. Among them, those who had arrived first had been waiting here for half a year. Since a month ago, many bodiless celestials had left. Naturally, there were still many bodiless celestials who were waiting here. Most of the bodiless celestials who stayed behind were bodiless celestials with outstanding strength, since most of them knew their limits and left. They knew even if someone came out of the underground palace, they would not be able to snatch anything with their strength. Naturally, there were also some bodiless celestials with weak strength who did not leave. Chapter 2439. Could it be that there are other exits in this heaven-ranked treasure vault? In the sky above the underground palace, a loose immortal stared at the entrance of the underground palace and frowned. No! Another bodiless celestial shook his head and said, in the Beyond Heaven secret zone, there's only one entrance to the human-ranked treasure vault, heaven-ranked treasure vault, and the place where the great overarching golden celestials left their legacies. In the past, the Beyond Heaven secret zone had been opened before. According to the records left behind by the people of that time, it also emphasized one point. Whether it was a human treasure vault, a heaven treasure vault, or the land of inheritance of a Daluo golden immortal, there was only one entrance. Wherever one entered, one could only exit. But, in the past half a year, at least 100 non-itinerant immortals have entered. However, no one came out. Don't you find it strange? The loose immortal who spoke first looked at the loose immortal who spoke later and questioned. It's a little strange, but that doesn't mean that there's another exit to this heaven-ranked treasure vault. The latter nodded at first, then shook his head. Now, there are only two possibilities. Either the people who entered have already died in the checkpoint of the heaven-ranked treasure vault, or they haven't come out yet. Many of the other loose immortals agreed with the words of this loose immortal. As for the group of itinerant immortals, some of them wholeheartedly agreed with this itinerant immortal's words, while others were indignant that they had waited for so long only to see nothing in the end. With the sound of wind whistling, a figure flew over from afar and appeared in front of the group of loose immortals in the blink of an eye. Hirun? The newcomer was a young man. As soon as he appeared, he was recognized by one of the bodiless celestials present. This bodiless celestial was an old man. He was dressed in plain clothes and looked very ordinary. He did not stand out among the group of bodiless celestials. Elder Chi. When the young man heard the voice and saw the old man, his body suddenly trembled. He then respectfully bowed to the old man. Junior Hirun greets Elder Chi. He had never seen the old man in front of him before he entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone. It was only because he was going to enter the Beyond Heaven secret zone that his sect had gathered a group of people, including himself, that he had the opportunity to meet this old man. Only then did he learn. This old man was the mysterious seven tribulation bodiless celestial in his force. Moreover, it was said that this seven tribulation bodiless celestial was even stronger than the leader of his force, another seven tribulation bodiless celestial. He never thought that he would meet the other party here. He run. Did you also hear that a heaven-ranked treasure vault has appeared here and specially rushed over? The old man narrowed his eyes and asked he run. He run hurriedly nodded, and then glanced around. His heart could not help but tremble. There were at least 50 to 60 people around. Moreover, since they were guarding this place and did not enter, they were most likely itinerant immortals. As a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage, he felt slightly pressured by these people who seemed to be bodiless celestials. I've been waiting here for half a year. The old man looked at He-Run and said, in the past 6 months, no less than 100 people have entered the heaven-ranked treasure vault. However, none of them came out in the end. There's no lack of eminent celestials among them. The old man paused for a moment before he said, so, do you still want to go in? Elder Chi, I want to go in and have a look. He-Run said without any hesitation. From the moment he entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone, he had already mentally prepared himself. Fortune came with risk. If one wanted to obtain celestial supreme treasures, divine abilities from the Devata realms, and the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial, naturally, he would have to take risks. All right. The old man did not try to persuade He-Run again. He wanted to see if He-Run would be in danger after entering the heaven-ranked treasure vault. If something happened to He-Run, he would be able to find out immediately. After all, apart from He-Run's soul pearl, he also had a Tao talisman that matched the one inscribed on He-Run's body. As long as He-Run was killed, the scenes before He-Run's death would be displayed in front of him in the form of a mirror image. Elder Chi, I'm going in. He-Run did not hesitate. After bidding farewell to the old man, he entered the heaven-ranked treasure vault under everyone's watchful eyes. As soon as He-Run entered the heaven-ranked treasure vault, a bodiless celestial looked at the old man and asked, Brother, is he a junior from your sect? The old man nodded. Does this mean you have his soul pearl? Someone asked. It's not just his soul pearl. I have a mirror image Tao talisman that matches his Tao talisman. The old man raised an eyebrow. The eyes of the bodiless celestials brightened immediately. After all, they knew what this meant. This meant, once something happened to He-Run, the old man in front of him would be able to discover it immediately and see the scene before He-Run was killed. Swoosh. At this moment, a soul pearl appeared in the old man's hand. It was none other than He-Run's soul pearl. The bodiless celestials in the surroundings immediately shifted their attention to the soul pearl. After a dozen breaths, the soul pearl in the old man's hand shattered under the shocked gazes of the bodiless celestials. He's dead? He died just like that? It hasn't even been 20 breaths since he entered the heaven-ranked treasure vault, right? What's so dangerous in the heaven-ranked treasure vault? The bodiless celestials were shocked when they saw the soul pearl in the old man's hand shattering. They did not expect someone who had entered the heaven-ranked treasure vault would die so quickly. Previously, none of the people who had entered the heaven-ranked treasure vault were juniors of the bodiless celestials present. For this reason, they did not have the soul pearls of the juniors. If the juniors did not come out, they would not know what was going on inside. Even if the juniors were dead, they would not know when they had died. Now that the soul orb in the old man's hand that belonged to a junior disciple of his faction had shattered, it told them something else. This heaven-ranked treasure vault was extremely dangerous. A powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage had died in less than 20 breaths after entering the treasure vault. Brother, quickly take a look at how he died. Many bodiless celestials looked at the old man and asked anxiously. At the same time, the old man's eyes were no longer focused on the broken soul orb in his hand. Instead, his eyes were slightly slack. He died so quickly? Although the old man did not have much hope for He-Run, the junior from his sect, he was shocked by He-run's strength. However, He-run dying so quickly still shocked him to a certain extent. I'd like to see if He-run died in the heaven-ranked treasure vault or if he was killed by someone else. With this thought in mind, the old man took out a Dao talisman and crushed it. Bush, bush, bush. Almost as soon as the old man crushed the talisman, a mysterious power appeared in the void in front of him. In the end, this mysterious power turned into a series of constantly changing images. He-run's figure appeared in the images. However, there were 3 other people who appeared with He-run. One of them was a purple-clothed young man. He sat cross-legged in the void, and there were many illusory figures moving rapidly around him. These illusory figures all had a sword in their hands. He's comprehending a divine ability? Many bodiless celestials' eyes lit up. Could this be the offensive divine ability, the 13 green lotus swords, that's in the heaven-ranked treasure vault? It's possible. Many people nodded in agreement. It's obviously a divine ability from the Devata realm. Moreover, it's a sword-type divine ability. It must be the 13 green lotus swords. According to the news, there are 3 people in the heaven-ranked treasure vault. Duan Ling Tian, a man from the Saint Province realm, had obtained a celestial sword before he entered the heaven-ranked treasure vault. Moreover, he was wearing a purple robe. If I'm not mistaken, the purple-clad young man must be Duan Lingteng. It seems like Duan Ling Tian has also obtained the divine ability, the 13 green lotus swords. The 2 people guarding Duan Ling Tian must be Zhang Yi from Yanhuang realm and Han Xuanai from the Saint Province realm. It's said that both of them possess a celestial supreme treasure as well, Duan Ling Tian murmured to himself. 3 immortal supreme treasures. Upon seeing Duan Ling Tian, Han Xuanai, and Zhang Yi in the mirror image, the eyes of the group of itinerant immortals outside the underground palace lit up. Some of them had stayed until now because of the immortal supreme treasures in the hands of Duan Ling Tian and the other 2. And now, seeing that Duan Ling Tian's group of 3 were still alive, they naturally couldn't help but feel excited, because this also meant that the cooked duck had not flown away yet. Why are there only 3 of them? Where are the others? At the same time, some of the itinerant immortals who had seen the grand hall through the mirror image did not see the hundreds of people who had entered the underground palace. Their expressions turned grim immediately. Do you see the bloodstains on the ground? I'm guessing those people have most likely been killed by Duan Ling Tian's group of 3. Many itinerant immortals were still speculating. He-run, who had just entered the underground palace, had already spoken to Zhang Yi. Soon after, He-run made his move and charged toward Zhang Yi. However, Zhang Yi had killed him with a swing of his sword. Zhang Yi is a disciple of the Celestial Master's sect from Yanhuang realm. Chapter 2440. Based on his strength, it seems like he's on par with He-run. However, the sword in his hand is extraordinary. It must be the celestial sword he obtained from the heaven-ranked treasure vault. At this moment, many bodiless celestials noticed the sword in Zhang Yi's hand. When 2 people of similar strength fought, one of them managed to kill the other in a one-sided manner. There must be a reason for this. They could see it was because of the sword in Zhang Yi's hand. To be more precise, it was because of the celestial sword. A powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage wielding a celestial sword was comparable to an eminent celestial. A celestial sword. The bodiless celestials who were watching the mirror images looked at the celestial sword in Zhang Yi's hand with greed in their eyes. The Celestial Master's sect from Yanhuang realm? The old man from He-run's force was slightly fearful when he heard the people around him said the person who killed He-run was a disciple from the Celestial Master's sect in Yanhuang realm. The Celestial Master's sect was one of the top forces in Yanhuang realm. Moreover, it was one of the top forces in Yanhuang realm. Although the force he belonged to was not in Yanhuang realm, it was not considered a top force in the mundane realm he was in, let alone compared to a top force like the Celestial Master sect in Yanhuang realm. So what if he's from the Celestial Master sect? It doesn't matter if I kill him to avenge He-run or not. What I want is the celestial sword in his hand. Soon after, the old man regained his senses. The fear in his eyes gradually disappeared. In his opinion, this was not the case. As long as he did not kill Zhang Yi, he would not offend the Celestial Master's sect. If Zhang Yi's celestial supreme treasure was taken away by him, Zhang Yi could only blame himself for not being able to protect a celestial supreme treasure. With a soft sound, the mirror image disappeared. Although the mirror images had disappeared, the greed in the bodiless celestials' hearts had been roused. Before the mirror images appeared, they were not sure if the 3 people who had obtained the celestial supreme treasures were still in there. However, now that they knew the 3 people who had obtained the celestial supreme treasures, the 3 people who obtained the immortal supreme treasures were still in the heaven-rank treasure vault, but they had not come out yet. Moreover, other than the 3 of them, the 100+ people who had entered the heaven treasure trove later had all died inside. However, even so, they were not afraid in the slightest. After all, those who could enter the heaven-rank treasure vault were all existences that were not itinerant immortals. Not only were they bodiless celestials, but apart from a few of them, the rest were all bodiless celestials with extraordinary strength. Now, there's finally some hope. They will come out sooner or later. Just you wait. Some of the itinerant immortals who had been waiting impatiently and were about to leave stopped thinking about leaving at this moment. Instead, they stared at the entrance of the underground palace excitedly, waiting for the person inside to come out. In the northern region of the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land. Master, Senior Heavenly Secrets? I'm going in. In the misty ice mountain valley, Gan Ru Yen greeted Bluefire and the Oracle Man and prepared to enter the black hole that was suspended in the air not far away. Currently, she had successfully broken through to the 7th form of the Saint's celestial stage. For this reason, she was prepared to enter the Sword Saint's secret zone. However, Gan Ru Yen was unaware that she was not going to enter the Sword Saint's secret zone, but the Beyond Heaven's secret zone. Si Ling is still cultivating. I won't be able to talk to her. Please take good care of her, Master and Senior Heavenly Secrets. Before she left, Gan Ru Yen added. Without waiting for Bluefire and the Oracle Man's reply, she disappeared into the black hole in just a flash. It was as though she had been swallowed by the black hole. After Gan Ru Yen disappeared, Bluefire sighed. He had failed to stop his direct disciple from entering the Heaven's secret zone. He really wanted to enter the black hole as well, but the black hole rejected those who were not bodiless celestials over the age of 100. As soon as Gan Ru Yen disappeared into the black hole, somewhere in the Beyond Heaven's secret zone. Sister has entered? A woman who had just come out of a human-rank treasure vault with a feng shui compass in her hand looked at the woman with bright eyes before she flew in another direction. The woman had beautiful hair that cascaded down her back like a waterfall. Her figure was graceful, and she was extremely beautiful. Most importantly, she was extremely beautiful. She looked exactly like Gan Ru Yen. This woman was none other than Duan Lingtian's wife, Ke. If it was a month ago, Ke and Gan Ru Yen would not be able to sense each other's presence even though they were twins. Currently, Ke was able to sense Gan Ru Yen's presence from afar. She knew Gan Ru Yen had entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone because of this. A month ago, her strength had increased by another level. Ever since her cultivation base had improved, apart from regaining some of her memories from her past life, she had also discovered that her perception of her surroundings had improved. Just like now. Suddenly, she sensed that her twin sister, Gan Ru Yen, had entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone as well. Naturally, the reason she could sense Gan Ru Yen's presence was due to the blood connection between her and Gan Ru Yen. Currently, she had the ability to amplify the connection. Meanwhile, when Gan Ru Yen was close to the black hole, she saw a flash in front of her. She instinctively narrowed her eyes. When she opened her eyes again, she discovered that she was in a stone forest. Moreover, she heard a series of thunderous sounds as if someone was fighting nearby. The celestial supreme treasure is mine. I'm going to get this celestial supreme treasure. At this moment, Gan Ru Yen heard a series of beastly roars. When she looked closer, she saw a group of people fighting in the distance. Many people were watching the battle from afar. Celestial supreme treasure? Don't tell me there's a celestial supreme treasure here? When Gan Ru Yen heard the beastly roars, she couldn't help but look around. In the end, her gaze landed on the area below where the group of people were fighting in a chaotic battle. A towering boulder stood there, and on top of the boulder, there was a crescent-shaped narrow saber suspended. The narrow saber floated there. From a distance, the saber looked like a pool of autumn water. It didn't look like an ordinary item. Don't tell me this is a celestial supreme treasure? For a moment, Gan Ru Yan's heartbeat quickened. She did not expect this. She did not expect to encounter a celestial supreme treasure as soon as she entered the Beyond Heaven's secret zone. Wait a minute. Gan Ru Yen suddenly felt something was amiss. Was this not the Sword Saint's secret zone? Up until now, apart from the people from the Seven Absolutes sect, no one else she knew had entered the Beyond Heaven's secret zone. That's right. Senior Prophet seemed to have said that the key to the Sword Saint's secret zone isn't the only key he has. There are other keys in other places as well. From the looks of it, these people came in through the door that was opened by another key. Gan Ru Yen thought to herself. However, it seems like the people fighting are all bodiless celestials. At the same time, Gan Ru Yen glanced at the battlefield in the distance. She discovered that the people who attacked the battlefield were all extremely powerful. She was no match for them. Who do you think will obtain the celestial supreme treasure in the end? Gan Ru Yen heard a commotion in the air. It was the group of spectators surrounding the battlefield, discussing and whispering. I think the owner of the celestial supreme treasure will be one of the 5 tribulation bodiless celestials. After all, the 2 of them are the strongest people here. If it weren't for them, the others wouldn't be able to compete for the celestial supreme treasure. A middle-aged man's voice rang in Gan Ru Yan's ears. At this moment, Gan Ru Yan saw 2 people fighting fiercely. Surprisingly, there were 2 people fighting intensely on the battlefield. However, there was no third person in the battle between the 2 of them. Moreover, the others were intentionally avoiding them. They must be the 2 5 tribulation bodiless celestials. Gan Ru Yen was shocked when she saw the 2 people fighting. Based on the commotion, she was certain they were 5 tribulation bodiless celestials. However, the aura they emitted when they fought seems to be slightly weaker than Di Chen from the Dragon Clan. Prior to this, the only 5 tribulation bodiless celestial Gan Ru Yen had encountered was Di Chen. At that time, she was still the sect leader of Zoroastrianism. However, although Di Chen was a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial, he was forced to kneel, kowtow, and beg for mercy by her sister's husband, Duan Lingtian. Her sister's husband's actions shocked the entire upper province of the Dao Martial Saint land. It's normal. After all, rumor has it that Di Chen was on the verge of becoming a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial at that time. However, he failed to become a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial in the end. Gan Ru Yen had heard about Di Chen's failure to pass the 6th tribulation bodiless celestial and his death. She had also heard about Di Chen's failure. The reason Di Chen failed to pass the celestial ascension tribulation was due to his obsession with her sister's husband, Duan Lingtian. For this reason, Di Chen's father, Di Huan, the supreme elder of the dragons and a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial, had been searching for her sister's husband in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint land. He wanted to avenge Di Chen by killing him. These bodiless celestials are not weak. Gan Ru Yen turned to look at the other bodiless celestials. Suddenly, Gan Ru Yen discovered someone was watching from afar. While the group of bodiless celestials were fighting, a person who was watching from the side quietly approached the celestial supreme treasure. A 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. Gan Ru Yan's heart skipped a beat as a thought appeared in her mind. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the aureole behind. He's a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. Heavens! There's a third 5 tribulation bodiless celestial here. Moreover, this 5 tribulation bodiless celestial had arrived long ago and was waiting for the other 2 5 tribulation bodiless celestials to injure each other. He's too sinister. At this moment, the onlookers were not the only ones who were shouting. Even the other bodiless celestials who were fighting stopped and stood aside. Their eyes were filled with fear and unwillingness as they looked at the 5 tribulation bodiless celestial who had just arrived. They were afraid of the 5 tribulation bodiless celestial's strength. They were unwilling to accept the 5 tribulation bodiless celestial's appearance. Previously, the 2 5 tribulation bodiless celestials had restrained each other and created an opportunity for them. However, now that the 2 5 tribulation bodiless celestials were in a frenzy and were like arrows at the end of its flight, their chances were getting higher and higher. At this critical moment, another 5 tribulation bodiless celestial appeared. The Oriole is behind. The Oriole is behind. The 2 5 tribulation bodiless celestials are like arrows at the end of its flight. Even if they join forces, they won't be a match for him. Is the celestial supreme treasure really going to fall into his hands? More and more people's eyes fell on the middle-aged man who had just appeared. ***. Let's join forces. If we don't join forces, we'll definitely die. Moreover, we'll benefit from this. When the 2 5 tribulation bodiless celestials discovered a third 5 tribulation bodiless celestial was waiting to ambush them, they came to a tacit understanding and decided to join forces to deal with the enemy. However, did they still have a chance to defeat him? The answer was no. Although the 2 5 tribulation bodiless celestials who had both suffered injuries were not any weaker than ordinary 4 tribulation bodiless celestials, they were still very weak. However, they were nothing in front of a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial who was at his peak. After 10 moves, the 2 5 tribulation bodiless celestials who had suffered injuries were killed by the middle-aged man who was waiting for them. From the beginning until the end, the middle-aged man was not injured at all. This man's aura is comparable to Di Chen, the 7-clawed divine dragon. Gan Ru Yen sensed the aura coming from the middle-aged man's body. The middle-aged man's strength was comparable to Di Chen. He was stronger than either of the 2 bodiless celestials at their peak. He seems to be stronger than the 2 5 tribulation bodiless celestials. He's too shameless. Not only is he stronger than the 2 5 tribulation bodiless celestials, but he even took advantage of their injuries to kill them. He's not shameless, he's just smart. If he had shown himself earlier, he might have been able to defeat either of the 2 5 tribulation bodiless celestials. However, he's no match for them when they join forces. Some of the onlookers thought the middle-aged man was shameless, but most of them thought he was smart and knew how to size up the situation. Swoosh! Under everyone's watchful eyes, the middle-aged man's body flashed as though he had transformed into a gust of wind and appeared near the crescent-shaped celestial supreme treasure. This celestial saber is mine. The middle-aged man's eyes brightened as he looked at the crescent-shaped celestial supreme treasure hovering in the air. Then he raised his hand, preparing to break the layers of formations that shrouded the celestial supreme treasure to obtain it. We worked so hard for so long. In the end, we won't be able to obtain it. A 4 tribulation bodiless celestial said with a wry smile on his face. He's too strong. I'm afraid there aren't many 5 tribulation bodiless celestials who entered the beyond heaven's secret zone who are stronger than him. It's not that he's strong. Most importantly, he's too patient. He actually waited until now to make a move. At this moment, everyone, including Gan Ru Yen, felt that the middle-aged man was too stubborn. The middle-aged man was destined to obtain the celestial supreme treasure. However, sometimes, one would not be able to predict the outcome until the very end. Who said it's yours? A hoarse voice rang in the air as an old man dressed in gray silently appeared in the vicinity. His eyes immediately landed on the middle-aged man who was trying to break the formation to obtain the celestial supreme treasure. There was no joy or sorrow in his eyes. He looked at the middle-aged man as if he was looking at a dead man. Everyone, including the middle-aged man, did not notice the old man's appearance. Even Gan Ru Yen was stunned. However, just as Gan Ru Yen was about to look at the old man, she heard the sound of wind rustling in the air. "Sister." Along with the sound of the wind came a very familiar voice. The voice was pleasing to the ear, making people feel as if they were bathed in the spring breeze. "Kerr." When Gan Ru Yen heard the familiar voice, she did not even have time to take a good look at the old man's face before she moved to the side. At this moment, A woman who looked identical to her was standing next to her. It was none other than her twin sister, Ker. Sister, you've broken through to the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage? Ker's appearance did not attract the attention of many people. That was because everyone's gazes were focused on the gray-clothed old man who had suddenly appeared. Is he a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial as well? Many people were shocked. Yes. Ganru Yen nodded when she heard Ker's question. When she looked at Ker again, her eyes were filled with excitement and confusion. Previously, she had witnessed Ker disappearing into the black hole. According to Mu Yi, Ker's speed was comparable to a 3 tribulation bodiless celestial. Although Ganru Yen did not know what kind of fortuitous encounter Ker had, she was still happy for Ker. However, in her heart she had always been puzzled about this. How did her little sister suddenly become so powerful? Ganru Yen was about to ask Ker for answers when she heard a loud noise. Bang! An earth-shattering sound came at the right time, interrupting her and attracting her attention. Then she saw the gray-clad old man. The gray-clad old man had just appeared and killed the middle-aged man with a single blow. 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. These were the last words left by the middle-aged man before he died, and it was also a message to everyone around him. The gray-clad old man was a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. A 6 tribulation bodiless celestial? This is what it means to be the aureole behind. Chapter 2442. When the middle-aged man killed the 2 5 tribulation bodiless celestials while both of them were injured, almost everyone present on the scene thought he was the aureole behind the mantis and would obtain the celestial supreme treasure. Who knew, when the middle-aged man was about to break the formations around the celestial supreme treasure, a gray-clad old man appeared. As soon as the gray-clad old man appeared, he killed the middle-aged man. From the beginning until the end, the gray-clad old man only said one sentence. Who said it's yours? The gray-clad old man's words were directed at the middle-aged man since the middle-aged man had said, "This celestial saber is mine." The middle-aged man did not even have time to react before he was killed by the gray-clad old man. The entire process was clean and tidy. 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. The middle-aged man's last words were clear to everyone present on the scene. The gray-clad old man who had killed the middle-aged man before he could even react was a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. A 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. I didn't expect this at all. As the saying goes, the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the aureole behind. This is the real aureole. 3 5 tribulation bodiless celestials died for a celestial supreme treasure. If they knew a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial had his eyes on this celestial supreme treasure, I'm afraid they wouldn't have gone through so much trouble to obtain it. After all, it's useless for them to compete with a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. The people present on the scene were shocked by the sudden turn of events. They could not help but sigh. They felt the 3 5 tribulation bodiless celestials had died unjustly. 5 tribulation bodiless celestials. They were 5 tribulation bodiless celestials. How could they die just like that? Moreover, 3 of them had died in one go. Under the watchful eyes of the others, the gray-clad old man who had killed the middle-aged man appeared in front of the crescent-shaped celestial supreme treasure in just a blink of an eye. With just a wave of his hand, he easily broke the formations around it. After breaking the formations, the gray-clad old man raised his hand and grabbed the crescent-shaped celestial supreme treasure. A hint of joy could be seen between his brows. Because even he didn't expect that his luck would be so good, as he passed by, he discovered that this was an Earth-ranked treasure vault in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. There was a celestial supreme treasure here. Moreover, when he arrived, the middle-aged man had just killed the other 2 5 tribulation bodiless celestials. If I had come a little later, I'm afraid you would have been his. The old man muttered as he looked at the crescent-shaped saber-type immortal supreme treasure in his hand. Although the old man's voice was not loud, it still clearly entered the ears of everyone present, causing them to come to a realization. That he's referring to should be that middle-aged man, right? Seems like it. Furthermore, from what he said, he seems to have just arrived. It must be. Otherwise, why would he say that if he came a little later, the celestial supreme treasure would be his? If that's the case, then his luck is really good. Realizing that the old man had also just arrived, the people present naturally couldn't help but envy his luck. However, while they were envious of his luck, they also knew their own limits. The reason the old man was able to obtain the celestial supreme treasure was due to his cultivation base. If he was only a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial or not a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial, he would not be able to change the fact that the middle-aged man had obtained the celestial supreme treasure. He's a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. He managed to obtain the celestial supreme treasure just like that? Gan Ruyen muttered to herself as she looked at the gray-clad old man. Her eyes lit up as she looked at the celestial supreme treasure in the gray-clad old man's hand. Although the celestial supreme treasure was good, it did not belong to her. Sister, do you want that saber? While Gan Ruyen's expression darkened, Ker's voice rang in her ears again. Ker. Gan Ruyen looked at Ker and smiled wryly. That's a celestial supreme treasure. Who wouldn't want it? However, since he's a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial, this celestial supreme treasure is destined to be his. It's fine as long as you want it. However, what Gan Ruyen did not expect was that Ker would actually leave behind such a sentence after she finished speaking. Then, he turned into an illusory figure in front of her eyes and gradually faded away. Who's she? What a beautiful woman. Not only is she beautiful, but she's very fast as well. Before I could react, she had already appeared there. Before the silhouette of Ker and Gan Ruyen faded away, Gan Ruyen heard a series of exclamations. Gan Ruyen's body stiffened as she turned her head around. With just a glance, she saw the gray-clad old man. He was about to leave after obtaining the celestial supreme treasure when he saw a familiar figure standing in the path of the gray-clad old man. It was none other than Ker, who had just left. Ker. Gan Ruyen's expression changed drastically as she cried out, Ker, what are you doing? Come back, come back. He's a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. Gan Ruyen cried out in alarm. Her voice was filled with panic. Gan Ruyen's words immediately attracted the attention of the people present on the scene. This woman looks identical to the woman who stopped the 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. Although their auras are different, I can tell they're twins. Based on her tone, it seems like she's afraid of the 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. Based on her anxious tone, it's obvious she doesn't think her twin sister is a match for the 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. Upon hearing Gan Ruyen's exclamation, everyone turned to look at her. She's at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. At this moment, a courageous person probed Gan Ruyen's cultivation base with his divine consciousness. When he received the feedback, he could not help but exclaim in a low voice. A hint of disdain could be heard in his voice. 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage? Are you kidding? Many people voiced their doubts when they heard this person's words. She's really at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. A cultivator at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Even if her twin sister is more talented than her, how much stronger can she be? Is she seeking death? As more and more people confirmed Gan Ruyen's cultivation base was at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage, they could not help but look at the woman who blocked the gray-clad old man's path. They felt she was seeking death. My divine consciousness can't get close to her at all. Some courageous people tried to probe Ker's cultivation base, but they discovered their divine consciousness could not get close to Ker at all. My divine consciousness can't get close to her as well. More and more people discovered their divine consciousness could not get close to Ker. Is it possible that she's stronger than us? Someone said. Impossible. Her twin sister's cultivation base is only at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. No matter how talented she is, she's at most at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage or an eminent celestial. Let alone an eminent celestial, even a 3 tribulation bodiless celestial wouldn't be able to escape my divine consciousness. In that case, there is only one possibility. She has some kind of treasure on her that can block the detection of divine sense. That must be the case. I've long heard of assist-type celestial supreme treasures that can block divine consciousness and soul attacks. As the group of people discussed animatedly, they were almost certain of one thing. It was because K'er had an assist-type celestial supreme treasure that could repel divine consciousness and defend against soul attacks. For a moment, their gazes towards K'er could not help but burn with passion. However, when they inadvertently glanced at the gray-robed old man in front of K'er, their gazes dimmed. Only then did they remember, there was also a sixth tribulation bodiless celestial. Unfortunately, even if she has an assistive celestial supreme treasure, it's destined to have nothing to do with us. She's crazy. If she hadn't stood out and blocked the path of the sixth tribulation bodiless celestial, we wouldn't have discovered her uniqueness, let alone know she might have an assist-type celestial supreme treasure. I really don't know what she is thinking. The group of people discussed among themselves, but they all came to the same conclusion. The woman who blocked the path of a sixth tribulation loose celestial was courting death. At first, there were still people who had doubts in their hearts. Perhaps, this woman's cultivation base was on par with the gray-robed old man. That was why she had stood out and blocked the path of the gray-robed old man in an attempt to snatch the celestial supreme treasure from him. However, when they discovered the other woman, who looked identical to the woman, was only at the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage, they no longer thought the woman was a match for the gray-robed old man. The gray-robed old man was a sixth tribulation bodiless celestial after all. However, this woman was a twin at the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage. Even if they racked their brains, they did not think the woman was a match for a sixth tribulation bodiless celestial. Sush. Under the watchful eyes of the others, Gan Ru Yen appeared next to K'er in just a blink of an eye. Senior. At the same time, Gan Ru Yen looked at the gray-robed old man standing near K'er and said apologetically, "Senior, I'm sorry. My sister is still young. I'll take her away now." Gan Ru Yen knew K'er was not any weaker than a three-tribulation bodiless celestial. However, the gray-robed old man was a sixth tribulation bodiless celestial. She did not think K'er was a match for the gray-robed old man. "She's your sister?" Chapter 2443. Yes. Is not equal to. Gan Ru Yen did not dare to be careless in front of a sixth tribulation bodiless celestial. A sixth tribulation bodiless celestial. This was someone who could kill her with just a finger. Ha! The gray-clad old man laughed loudly as he shifted his gaze to K'er after receiving Gan Ru Yan's confirmation. "I didn't expect to gain so much this time. Not only did I obtain an offensive celestial supreme treasure, but I even obtained an assist-type celestial supreme treasure." As a sixth tribulation bodiless celestial, the gray-clad old man had lived for a very long time. Due to his long lifespan, he was more cautious and had more things to consider. Although the woman who had blocked his path looked identical to the woman whose cultivation base was only at the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage, he was not 100% certain they were twins. Initially, he was not 100% certain the woman who had blocked his path could not be detected by his divine consciousness due to her extraordinary strength. Although the people around him had guessed she possessed an assist-type celestial supreme treasure, he was still wary of her. Although the same thought had appeared in his mind, he didn't dare to be 100% sure. For this reason, he had to verify his suspicions. Moreover, Gan Ru Yan's reply had undoubtedly allowed him to further verify this matter. Those who can enter the Beyond Heaven secret zone are not bodiless celestials. Only those below the age of 100 can enter. Since she's at the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage, it means she's not even 100 years old. At some point in time, the gray-clad old man's gaze landed on Gan Ru Yen again. He muttered to himself, "That's right. And since this woman is her twin sister, it is enough to say that she is also less than 100 years old. It's impossible for a person who's not even 100 years old to be a bodiless celestial. At most, she's an eminent celestial." The gray-clad old man's eyes lit up as he looked at K'er. His eyes, which were filled with brilliance, also revealed waves of greed, It was obvious he was greedy for the assist-type celestial supreme treasure that Kerr possessed. Hand over your celestial supreme treasure, and I'll only kill you. Under everyone's watchful eyes, the gray-clad old man looked at Kerr and suddenly said, "If you don't cooperate, not only will I kill you and take your celestial supreme treasure, but I'll also kill your twin sister so that you'll have a companion on your way to hell." The gray-clothed old man threatened Kerr. From the beginning to the end, he had been threatening her in a condescending manner. It was as if Kerr was just an ant that could not withstand a single blow from him. In fact, it was indeed true. A person who was not even 100 years old was like an ant in front of a six-tribulation bodiless celestial. Sush. Gan Ru Yan's expression changed. She did not expect the gray-clad old man to say such words. Even if she did not kill her twin sister's celestial supreme treasure, he would still kill her twin sister? Gan Ru Yan was about to say something when she heard the gray-clad old man's words. Just as the crowd was looking at Kerr with pity in their eyes, thinking that Kerr was going to die for sure, under everyone's watchful eyes, "My sister wants the celestial supreme treasure in your hand." Kerr did not seem to hear the gray-clad old man's words at all. Instead, she looked at the gray-clad old man and spoke in an indifferent tone. As soon as Kerr said that, Gan Ru Yan was dumbstruck before she could even finish her sentence. What kind of situation was this? Kerr was still thinking about what she had said. It seems like Kerr only stopped him because of what I said. Gan Ru Yan's expression changed again when she thought up to this point. Her eyes were filled with guilt. She felt that she had something to do with her younger sister's predicament. It could even be said that she was the instigator. Is she crazy? Everyone else was dumbstruck by Kerr's words. Even the gray-clad old man was stunned. His expression changed drastically when he saw the woman's graceful figure had vanished into thin air as soon as she finished speaking. Naturally, he knew it was impossible for the woman to vanish into thin air. Oh no! The gray-clad old man panicked when he thought about this. He narrowed his eyes and caught a glimpse of a figure. There was a beautiful figure that even his eyesight could not see clearly, and it was rushing towards him at an exaggerated speed. Moreover, just as his expression changed drastically, the beautiful figure in front of him was already extremely close to him, so close that it was frightening. Seven tribulation bodiless celestial? At this moment, the gray-clad old man finally regained his senses. The speed of the figure was comparable to a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. How can a woman who's not even 100 years old be a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial? The gray-clothed old man, who suddenly had this thought in his mind, only felt that everything in front of him was incomparably absurd. At the same time, he also realized how stupid he was to actually underestimate the other party. Boom! Without any hesitation, the gray-clad old man mobilized his strength as fast as he could. At this moment, he did not wish to kill the woman, he only wished to escape. Even if he had to give up the celestial supreme treasure in his hand. Swoosh! Just as the gray-clothed old man's strength skyrocketed and he seemed to be enveloped in a layer of invisible flames, he shot out like a cannonball. He shot off in the opposite direction at an extremely exaggerated speed. He was fleeing in the same direction as the gray-clad old man. Run! Run! This was the only thought left in the gray-clad old man's mind. He did not expect a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial like him would end up like this. Just as the gray-clothed old man was fleeing for his life, the space near him suddenly stagnated. Then, a beautiful figure appeared. It was Ku, who was following the black-clothed old man like a shadow. Swoosh! When the gray-clad old man saw Kerr, his expression changed again. He gulped as he prepared to surrender the celestial supreme treasure in his hand. However, before the gray-clad old man could speak, Kerr made her move again. With a flash of her body, a white light appeared around her body. It was dazzling like a ball of white flame. In the blink of an eye, it enveloped the gray-robed old man who had yet to speak. A ball of white flame pierced through the air. Wherever it passed, the air in the void paused. At this moment, the gray-clad old man had completely disappeared. The only thing left was the crescent-shaped saber celestial supreme treasure. As soon as the celestial saber appeared in the air, It began to descend and landed in a slender hand under everyone's watchful eyes. The person who caught the celestial saber was none other than Kerr. From the time Ku'er pursued the old man to the time she killed him, it was only a matter of a blink of an eye. The gray-clad old man did not even leave the crowd's line of sight. He's dead. How's this possible? Isn't she twins with the woman at the 7th form of the Saint's celestial stage? Her twin sister's cultivation base is at the 7th form of the Saint's celestial stage. That means she's not even 100 years old. She's not even 100 years old, but she's strong enough to kill a 6th tribulation bodiless celestial? How's this possible? Most importantly, she didn't use a celestial supreme treasure when she killed the 6th tribulation bodiless celestial. That's the scariest part. Kerr had killed a 6th tribulation bodiless celestial in just a blink of an eye without using a celestial supreme treasure, shocking everyone present on the scene. At the same time, they were filled with disbelief. How could a woman who was not even 100 years old be so strong? Based on the fact that she could kill a 6th tribulation bodiless celestial so easily, her strength was at least comparable to a 7th tribulation bodiless celestial. It's impossible for her to be an eminent celestial. She must be an old monster. I agree. How could an eminent celestial be stronger than a 7th tribulation bodiless celestial without using a celestial supreme treasure? Many people present on the scene could not help but discuss among themselves when they regained their senses. At this moment, Kerr returned to Gan Ru Yan's side and handed the crescent-shaped celestial saber to her. She said with a smile, "Sister, didn't you want this celestial supreme treasure? Kerr brought it to you." Gan Ru Yan did not take the celestial supreme treasure from Kerr. It was not that she did not want it, but she was still in a daze. When she regained her senses, she looked at Kerr in a daze. On the surface, Kerr did not seem any different from before. However, what had happened earlier was still vivid in her mind. Gan Ru Yan could not believe her eyes. In such a short period of time, how did her younger sister, Ku, possess such formidable strength? This was beyond her comprehension. The 6th tribulation bodiless celestial was so strong, but he was so weak in front of her sister. She felt as though she was in a dream. How did you? Gan Ru Yan took the crescent-shaped celestial saber from Kerr. She did not even have the time to be happy about obtaining a celestial supreme treasure before she looked at Kerr in confusion. "Sister, let's talk after we leave this place," Kerr said with a smile on her face. When Gan Ru Yan heard this, she glanced at the people in the surroundings and nodded her head. This made her realize that her sister was not weak at all. Her younger sister, other than her shocking strength, did not change in any other aspect. She was still the same as before. She did not like being surrounded by strangers. Chapter 2444. Sush. Under Kerr's guidance, Gan Ru Yan disappeared from everyone's sight in the blink of an eye. It was as if she had never appeared before. 09 Xiao Shua Net. Can anyone tell me what's going on? Is the woman at the 7th form of the Saint's celestial stage really her sister? A4 tribulation bodiless celestial gulped. I don't understand. I don't understand at all. Only bodiless celestials under the age of 100 can enter the beyond heaven's secret zone. If she's really a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial, she's more than qualified to be the old ancestor of the woman at the 7th form of the Saint's celestial stage. How could she be her sister? Most people couldn't figure it out no matter how they thought about it. Is that possible? A3 tribulation bodiless celestial speculated, the older sister is actually a reincarnated person. Legend has it that there are people in the Tao Martial Saint land who use special techniques to reincarnate. The woman at the 7th form of the Saint's celestial stage might be one of those rare reincarnated people. Moreover, she has been reincarnated for almost 10,000 years. That would explain why the 7 tribulation bodiless celestial would call her sister. The 3 tribulation bodiless celestial speculations caused everyone to fall silent. They had more or less heard of the legend of reincarnation, but most people thought that it was an illusory existence and might not necessarily exist. In fact, Duan Lingtian had also heard of this legend. At that time, He realized the reincarnation Emperor Wu of Cloud Continent was a genius. The 3 lives rebirth technique he created was considered a rare treasure even in the Dao Martial Saint land. That seems to be the only explanation. Although it doesn't seem realistic, it's not the only explanation. Compared to this explanation, a person who's not even 100 years old possesses the strength of a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial without using a celestial supreme treasure? That's even more unrealistic, right? I think so too. Gan Ru Yen was unaware that she had been regarded as a reincarnated person by a group of people. Now, she was brought to a quiet and secluded valley by Ku Air, where birds chirped and flowers bloomed. Sister, I know you have a lot of questions. I can tell you everything now. However, I hope you won't tell Brother Tian about this. I don't want him to worry, Kerr said as she looked at Gan Ru Yen. You're the one who's not going to tell him. Gan Ru Yan's heart skipped a beat when she heard Kerr's words. She was certain it was her sister's method was otherwise. Why would she have warned her sister before she knew her sister? Gan Ru Yan's expression changed drastically when she heard Kerr's explanation. Burning one's soul to recover the memories of one's past life while rapidly increasing one's strength? She managed to avoid the eyes heaven's eyes celestial supreme heaven, S of eyes, S's, of sir her of I of us. Although Kaer had only briefly mentioned the process of burning her soul, recovering her memories of her previous life, and rapidly increasing her strength. She's of an eyes of A of Ash knew the process must be very painful. Kerr, why do you have to do this? Gan Ru Yen smiled bitterly as tears streamed down her beautiful face. She could not help but tremble as her heart ached for her younger sister. Sister, I don't want to be a burden to him anymore. Kerr's reply was simple. As for the person she was referring to, it was naturally Duan Ling Tian. Silly girl, silly girl. When Gan Ru Yen heard Kerr's reply and saw the bright smile on Kerr's face when she thought of someone, her heart trembled. She could not help but sigh. In her opinion, this younger sister of hers was simply too foolish. Sister, you just came in, right? Kaer changed the topic at the right time. Gan Ru Yen nodded. At the same time, she could not help but sigh. I saw a group of people fighting for the celestial supreme treasure when I first came in. Gan Ru Yen glanced at the crescent-shaped celestial saber in her hand. At that time, although she did not know who the celestial supreme treasure belonged to, it did not stop her from being envious of the person who obtained it. At that time, she did not even dare to hope for the celestial supreme treasure. She did not expect the celestial supreme treasure would end up in her hands. You don't know that this is not the Sword Saint's secret zone left behind by Senior Feng Qingyang, right? Kerr asked again. What? Gan Ru Yen was shocked by Kerr's words. This was not the Sword Saint's secret zone? What is this place then? Gan Ru Yen knew that her younger sister would not speak without thinking. She could not help but ask. This is the Beyond Heaven secret zone. When Kerr told Gan Ru Yen that they were in the Beyond Heaven secret zone, she also told Gan Ru Yen everything she knew about the Beyond Heaven secret zone. The Beyond Heaven secret zone is connected to 5 mundane realms? Currently, we're the only ones who entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone from the Saint Province realm. The others are from the other 4 mundane realms? The other 4 mundane realms are all large mundane realms that are much larger than the Saint Province realm? There are many eminent celestials who are younger than 100 years old in the large mundane realms. Moreover, some eminent celestials are as strong as 5 tribulation bodiless celestials or even 6 tribulation bodiless celestials. Kerr's explanation seemed to have opened the door to a whole new world for Gan Ru Yen, greatly broadening her horizons. At the same time, Gan Ru Yan's heart was filled with shock. As it turns out, those bodiless celestials who fought for the celestial supreme treasure earlier are from the other mundane realms. Gan Ru Yen finally understood. Gan Ru Yen was very lucky. As soon as she entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone, Kerr had found her. Otherwise, she would have died in the Beyond Heaven secret zone even if her cultivation base was at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Time continued to pass by. In just a blink of an eye, a year had passed. Outside the heaven-ranked treasure vault left behind by Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial, A group of bodiless celestials with weak cultivation bases had left. However, the bodiless celestials who were stronger and confident in their strength stayed behind. They waited patiently. The reason for that was because they had confirmed a year ago that the 3 youngsters who had obtained immortal supreme treasures were still in the heaven-level treasure vault before them. However, they had yet to come out. Don't tell me those 2 brats and that girl are planning to stay in there for another year? A bodiless celestial asked with a frown. It doesn't matter if they stay in there for another year. I'll wait for them to come out. In any case, they'll come out sooner or later. Unless they have a death wish. Another bodiless celestial said. 3 years after the Beyond Heaven secret zone opened, those who entered the secret zone would be able to sense the location of the entrance to the mundane realm they were in. If they wanted to leave the secret zone, they would have to find the entrance themselves. The Beyond Heaven secret zone would be open for 10 years. If they did not leave within 10 years, they would be trapped in the Beyond Heaven secret zone forever. They would have to wait for the next opening of the Beyond Heaven secret zone before they could leave. Naturally, that was if they could survive until then. Moreover, even if they could survive until then, they would have a mental breakdown. After all, the Beyond Heaven secret zone was a completely sealed space. One could not transcend the heavenly tribulation or ascend. Whether it was bodiless celestials or eminent celestials, they would not be able to transcend the heavenly tribulation or ascend. For this reason, no one would willingly be trapped in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. If one was trapped in there, they would suffer a fate worse than death. Everyone, I only want 1 celestial sword. I won't touch the other treasures on them. One of the bodiless celestials suddenly said to the other bodiless celestials. However, no one paid any attention to him. When the people in there came out, they would have to fight for the celestial supreme treasures based on their own strength. If one was capable, it was not impossible to obtain all the celestial supreme treasures. In the heaven-ranked treasure vault left behind by Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Within the circular light barrier formed by the flying swords, a purple-clothed young man sat cross-legged in the air. He was like a statue, not moving at all. Not far away, a beautiful woman and a young man could be seen sitting cross-legged in a corner. They seemed to be cultivating or comprehending something. All of a sudden, swoosh, 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 swoosh. The swoosh, 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 swoosh. Suddenly, accompanied by the sound of air friction, the thousands of rapidly moving sword lights paused in an instant. It was as if time had frozen at this moment. It was as if thousands of high-speed sports cars had come to a sudden stop. Boom! The instant the sword lights stopped in the air, an earth-shattering sound rang out. The circular light barrier formed by the sword light exploded, causing the air to tremble. After the air vibrated, the purple-robed young man, who was sitting cross-legged in the void like an old monk in meditation, opened his eyes in an instant. I've finally succeeded. Chapter 2445. The purple-clad young man was none other than Duan Lingtian, who had been in closed-door cultivation for a long time. I was so focused on my closed-door cultivation that I completely forgot about the time. I wonder how long I spent in closed-door cultivation. As Duan Lingtian's eyes brightened, he could not help but feel puzzled. Just as Duan Lingtian was about to ask Han Xuanai and Zhang Yi about it, he realized something was amiss. They were sitting cross-legged in 2 corners of the dazzling hall. They were motionless like old monks in meditation. Let's wait for them. Duan Lingtian was not in a hurry to wake the 2 of them up from their closed-door cultivation. While waiting, he did not remain idle and continued to comprehend the divine ability, the 13 green lotus swords. Time flew by. In just a blink of an eye, a month had passed. At this moment, Han Xuanai woke up and discovered Duan Lingtian had come out of closed-door cultivation. Brother Lingtian, you've come out of closed-door cultivation? Han Xuanai had just woken up when she noticed Duan Lingtian's gaze on her. She could not help but feel slightly surprised. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded with a smile. When did this happen? Han Xuanai asked again. It's been a month. Duan Lingtian smiled. Are we going out now? Han Xuanai's eyes flashed with a hint of dread. I wonder if the bodiless celestials outside are still around. It'll be great if there's another exit in this underground palace. When Han Xuanai thought about the possibility of a group of bodiless celestials with extraordinary strength waiting outside, she could not help but feel wary. When her brother Ling Tian had just gone into closed-door cultivation, she and Zhang Yi had searched the underground palace in an attempt to find another exit. However, their efforts were to no avail. In the end, they had no choice but to confirm a fact. There was only one exit in the heaven-ranked treasure vault left behind by Li Bai, the Green Lotus Sword Celestial. It was the one they had entered through. In addition, they had also learned from the group of non-body immortals who had entered earlier. Outside the entrance of the underground palace, a group of loose immortals had gathered. Once Zhang Yi comes out of seclusion, we'll head out, Duan Lingtian said calmly when he heard Han Xuanai's words. It was as though he was not worried about the group of bodiless immortals standing guard outside the underground palace. Big brother Lingtian, how was your seclusion this time? Seeing that Duan Lingtian was still able to remain calm at this time, Han Xuanai couldn't help but think of this and ask in a timely manner. Not bad. When he heard Han Xuanai's question, Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes and smiled. By the time Zhang Yi came out, it was already about 5 months later. It had been 2.5 years since Duan Lingtian and the others first entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone. All they had to do was wait for another 6 months before they would be able to sense the entrance and exit of the Beyond Heaven secret zone that connected them to the mundane realms. At that time, those who wanted to leave could leave, and those who wanted to stay could stay. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 3 completely different sword whistles rang out one after another, but they seemed to ring out at the same time. In the end, they seemed to have merged into one. Swoosh. After fusing into one, another ear-piercing sword whistle rang out. It tore through the void and entered one's ears, as if it could shatter one's eardrums. Zhang Yi, it seems like you've gained quite a lot from your seclusion this time. You actually managed to comprehend the first 3 swords of the 13 Green Lotus swords. Duan Lingtian could not help but praise Zhang Yi when he saw the 3 swords that were filled with mysteries after he came out of seclusion. A hint of surprise could be heard in his voice. Only those who had comprehended the divine ability, the 13 Green Lotus swords, would know how difficult it was to comprehend this divine ability. Perhaps, it was easy to comprehend the first sword. However, the further one progressed, the more difficult it was to comprehend. It was rare for Zhang Yi to be able to comprehend the first 3 swords of this divine ability in just 2 years. After all, this was not something an ordinary person could do. Duan Lingtian, even I managed to comprehend the first 3 swords of the 13 Green Lotus swords. I'm sure you've comprehended even more, right? Zhang Yi asked Duan Lingtian after he put the celestial sword away. I guess so. Duan Lingtian nodded. He did not dwell on this topic. Instead, he called out to Han Xuanai and Zhang Yi, we've been here for 2 years. It's time for us to leave. Duan Lingtian had learned from Han Xuanai that they had been in the heaven-ranked treasure vault left behind by Li Bai, the Green Lotus Sword Celestial, for 2 years. He did not know. Had the inheritance left behind by a great overarching golden celestial appeared? At this moment, a feng shui compass appeared in Duan Lingtian's hand. It was the feng shui compass he had obtained in the heaven-ranked treasure vault. It would lead them to their next destination. Their next destination would either be a human-ranked treasure vault, a heaven-ranked treasure vault, or the place of inheritance left behind by a great overarching golden celestial. Outside the underground palace. There's no one here? Zhang Yi followed Duan Lingtian and Han Xuanai out of the underground palace. Initially, he had planned to return to the underground palace immediately if they saw many bodiless celestials outside, so the bodiless celestials would not have the chance to attack them. After all, bodiless celestials were not allowed to enter the underground palace. There was a formation at the entrance of the underground palace that prevented bodiless celestials from entering. However, Zhang Yi was surprised to see that there were no bodiless celestials outside the underground palace. He did not even see a single bodiless celestial after they left the underground palace. Could it be that they're hiding? Soon after, Zhang Yi thought of this possibility. Just as this thought surfaced in Zhang Yi's mind, a voice rang out. Bang! A soft sound resonated in the air. Following that, Zhang Yi saw Duan Ling Tian, who was walking at the front, stomped on the ground and shot up into the sky. In just a blink of an eye, he was already far away. Brother Ling Tian. Han Xuanai's thoughts were similar to Zhang Yi's. However, when she was about to warn her brother Ling Tian, she discovered her brother Ling Tian was already far away. In the end, she could only brace herself and follow him. Upon seeing this, Zhang Yi had no choice but to follow Duan Ling Tian. He did not forget to look around as though he was afraid someone would attack him. After a while, Han Xuanai and Zhang Yi caught up to Duan Ling Tian. After the three of them gathered, they decided to follow Duan Ling Tian's feng shui compass. Up until now, their surroundings were still calm. The bodiless celestials have all left? Zhang Yi and Han Xuanai were about to follow Duan Ling Tian when an expression of disbelief appeared on their faces. They did not expect to not see a single figure outside the underground palace. They're here. Duan Ling Tian paused in his tracks, causing Zhang Yi and Han Xuanai to stop as well. Bush, 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 bush. As soon as Duan Ling Tian's words left his mouth, before Han Xuanai and Zhang Yi could react, the sound of wind whistling rang in the air around them. Horror dawned on both of their faces when they saw this. In just a blink of an eye, more than 20 figures appeared around Duan Ling Tian and his two companions. These figures were all human figures. Among them, there were old men, old women, middle-aged men, middle-aged women, and young men. However, they all had one thing in common without exception, and that was, they were all very similar. They were all bodiless celestials. Moreover, all of them were extremely powerful bodiless celestials. They're so fast. I can't even see their figures at all. At this moment, both Han Xuanai and Zhang Yi could not help but shudder with fear. Before the group of itinerant immortals appeared, they couldn't even see clearly which direction they had come from, let alone where they had been hiding. Unlike Han Xuanai and Zhang Yi, their expressions changed drastically. Duan Ling Tian's expression was indifferent when he saw the bodiless celestials. It was as though the appearance of these bodiless celestials did not affect his mood. You're finally willing to come out. Do you know that I've been waiting for you for a long time? An old man laughed as he looked at Duan Ling Tian and his two companions. A hint of greed could be seen in his eyes. Boy, you and this little girl are quite cunning. Unfortunately, you've been harmed by him. Did you really think we didn't expect you to turn back when you discovered us at the entrance of the Earth Palace? A middle-aged man glanced at Zhang Yi and Han Xuanai before he looked at Duan Ling Tian with a contemptuous smile on his face. He, who was hiding in the dark, had seen everything that had happened just now. Zhang Yi and Han Xuanai were extremely cautious when they walked out of the Earth Palace. They were prepared to turn back at any moment. Duan Ling Tian, on the other hand, walked out of the underground palace and swaggered up into the air, intending to leave. At that time, if it were not for the fact that they wanted to wait for Zhang Yi and Han Xuanai to follow Duan Ling Tian, these bodiless celestials who were hiding in the shadows would have attacked Duan Ling Tian. They waited patiently. When he saw Zhang Yi and Han Xuanai following Duan Ling Tian and the three little fellows who possessed celestial supreme treasures had left the underground palace and would not be able to return in time, fortunately, they had appeared in time. Zhang Yi smiled wryly when he heard the middle-aged man's words, but he did not say anything. However, he was still puzzled. During their time together, he understood Duan Ling Tian very well, and he knew that Duan Ling Tian wasn't a brainless and rash person. However, why was he so rash this time? On the other hand, Han Xuanai's expression gradually disappeared when she saw Brother Ling Tian's calm expression in the face of a group of bodiless celestials. A thoughtful expression appeared on her face. She thought to herself, could it be that Brother Ling Tian has a way to deal with these bodiless celestials? Han Xuanai could not help but tremble when she thought about this. These bodiless celestials were clearly not ordinary bodiless celestials. Chapter 2446. Do you think you're qualified to make us turn back? Under the gazes of the crowd, Duan Lingtian's gaze descended onto the middle-aged man, and a wisp of dense disdain appeared on the corners of his mouth. Duan Lingtian's words were filled with mockery. Do you think you're qualified to make us turn back? Do you think you're qualified to make us turn back? Duan Lingtian's words were directed at the middle-aged man who had said Han Xuanai and Zhang Yi were killed by Duan Lingtian and the other bodiless celestials present on the scene. Duan Lingtian's words were extremely arrogant. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, many bodiless celestials who had regained their senses glared at Duan Lingtian angrily. Moreover, some of the bodiless celestials' auras surged, causing the air to tremble. Brat, you're seeking death. One of the bodiless celestials could not help but make a move. He flew out like a raging dragon as he glared at Duan Lingtian. This bodiless celestial was none other than the middle-aged man who had said Han Xuanai and Zhang Yi were killed by Duan Lingtian. He was also a 6th tribulation bodiless celestial. A 6th tribulation bodiless celestial. When the middle-aged man made his move, the bodiless celestials present on the scene realized he was a 6th tribulation bodiless celestial. However, none of the bodiless celestials were surprised by this. After all, the bodiless celestials present on the scene were all quite strong. Even the weakest among them was a 6th tribulation bodiless celestial. For this reason, no one was surprised that someone was a 6th tribulation bodiless celestial. After all, there were many 7 tribulation bodiless celestials present on the scene. A mere 6th tribulation bodiless celestial was not enough to shock them. Bang, 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 bang. A series of explosions rang in the air. When the middle-aged man approached Duan Lingtian, his fists surged with energy. When he punched out, a sky full of fist rays shot toward Duan Lingtian. Brother Lingtian. When the middle-aged man moved and disappeared from Han Xuanai's sight, she clearly sensed a swift wind blowing towards Duan Lingtian, causing his clothes to flutter. Seeing this, she naturally knew that the middle-aged man had attacked her big brother Lingtian. Although she had faith in her big brother Lingtian, Han Xuanai couldn't help but feel nervous. This person's strength. I'm afraid he's not just a 4 or 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. Zhang Yi could vaguely sense that the middle-aged man was not simple. As for the other bodiless celestials, none of them stopped the middle-aged man from attacking Duan Lingtian. And the reason why they didn't stop it was because, first, it was because Duan Lingtian's words had angered them. Second, even if the middle-aged man killed Duan Lingtian, he would not be able to take away the celestial sword in Duan Lingtian's hand. Elementary devouring tactic. As soon as the middle-aged man made his move, Duan Lingtian cast his assist-type divine ability. Under everyone's watchful eyes, he devoured the heaven and earth spirit energy in the surroundings in just a blink of an eye. Since Duan Lingtian had cast the elementary devouring tactic, people like Han Xuanai and Zhang Yi would not be able to sense it. However, the bodiless celestials present on the scene clearly saw Duan Lingtian devouring the heaven and earth spirit energy in the surroundings in just a blink of an eye. What a powerful assist-type divine ability! At this moment, the bodiless celestials were shocked. Although they had seen assist-type divine abilities in the Devata realms before, none of them could compare to this assist-type divine ability. In the next moment, their eyes lit up when they saw a sword that was as clear as spring water appearing in Duan Lingtian's hand. A celestial sword. All of them recognized the sword as a celestial sword. Bang, 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 bang. The middle-aged man who was a 6th tribulation bodiless celestial shot out fist rays toward Duan Lingtian as though they were going to drown Duan Lingtian. The fists were like a rain of flowers that filled the sky. Everywhere they passed, the void trembled, and their power was overwhelming. At this moment, the other bodiless celestials present on the scene realized the middle-aged man was furious. It was clear the middle-aged man did not hold back when he attacked Duan Lingtian. It was clear he intended to kill Duan Lingtian. Sword-wielding technique. 13 green lotus swords. Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed coldly as he looked at the middle-aged man who was trying to kill him. Then, he channeled all his energy into the celestial sword in his hand. Swoosh! A sword howl tore through the sky like a flash in the pan, Yet it still shocked the hearts of many people present to the point of trembling. The celestial sword in Duan Lingtian's hand shot out like a flying sword. It was as though it could decapitate someone from 1,000 miles away. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. However, what happened next was even more shocking. After the first sword whistling sound, several more sword whistling sounds could be heard. Some of the 7 tribulation bodiless celestials present on the scene could vaguely tell the sword cries rang one after the other. To the other bodiless celestials, the sword cries seemed to have rung at the same time. For this reason, only the 7 tribulation bodiless celestials present on the scene could vaguely see Duan Lingtian's movements. A celestial sword was the first to appear. Several sword rays followed closely behind it. However, the 7 tribulation bodiless celestials did not know how many sword rays there were. Of course, although they couldn't completely capture it, they were certain of one thing. There were at least 5 sword rays following behind the celestial sword. Is this a divine ability from a Devata realm? A celestial method? The 7 tribulation bodiless celestials present on the scene saw the sword rays catching up to the celestial sword in the lead and merging with it. In just a blink of an eye, the sword rays converged into a sword and met the fist rays that resembled a rain of flowers. Swoosh! The sound of a sword cry rang in the air again. Compared to the previous sword whistling sound, this sword whistling sound was even more ear-piercing. It was as if it could pierce one's eardrums. However, in the blink of an eye, the sword light that had gathered into a single sword with the celestial sword as the carrier streaked across the sky, leaving behind a long and narrow sword light in the void. It looked exceptionally frightening. Boom! The sword ray shone brightly like a giant beast that had opened its mouth and devoured the fist rays that resembled a rain of flowers. How's this possible? When the fist rays that resembled a rain of flowers were annihilated by the sword ray, the middle-aged man who was charging toward Duan Lingtian finally regained his senses. His expression changed drastically. Swoosh! Right at this moment, the stroke that seemed like a stroke of genius, as well as the finishing touch, pierced into the center of the middle-aged man's brows like an iron drill before he could recover from his shock. Spurt! Blood splattered everywhere. In just a blink of an eye, the middle-aged man's eyes dimmed, and his aura weakened. He was dead. At this moment, the middle-aged man was killed. Gasp! 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 The 6 tribulation bodiless celestials present on the scene, including Han Xuanai and Zhang Yi, could not help but gasp in unison. In the next moment, they looked at Duan Lingtian as though they were looking at a monster. A 6 tribulation bodiless celestial was killed by Duan Lingtian in just a blink of an eye? Big Brother Lingtian's strength has actually become so strong? It seems like Brother Lingtian's strength has improved a lot during his closed-door cultivation. Han Xuanai had a feeling Brother Lingtian was strong enough to deal with the group of bodiless celestials in front of her. However, when she saw it with her own eyes, she could not help but feel shocked. Did Duan Lingtian cast the divine ability, the 13 green lotus swords? Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes. Although he could not see Duan Lingtian's attack clearly, he could tell the profundity of the divine ability, the 13 green lotus swords, from the sword cry earlier. He killed a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. Is he really not even 100 years old? Is he really just an eminent celestial? Isn't this too inconceivable? An eminent celestial who's not even 100 years old is able to kill a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial with just a blow. When the group of 6 tribulation bodiless celestials present on the scene looked at Duan Lingtian again, their eyes were filled with fear and disbelief. As it turned out, they did not take Duan Lingtian seriously at all. After all, how strong could a person who was not even 100 years old be even if he was an eminent celestial? However, the sudden reality seemed to have played a huge joke on them. This purple-clad young man who was not even 100 years old was able to kill a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial with just a blow. They were certain they would not be able to survive Duan Lingtian's attack even if they were the one who had been killed by Duan Lingtian. Based on the strength he displayed earlier, he's not any weaker than me. These were the thoughts of the 7 tribulation bodiless celestials present on the scene. The sword attack Duan Lingtian had cast earlier was enough to threaten them. Now, do you still think you're qualified to make us turn back? After killing the middle-aged 6 tribulation bodiless celestial, Duan Lingtian calmly looked at the other bodiless celestials present on the scene. The group of 6 tribulation bodiless celestials lowered their heads when they saw Duan Lingtian's gaze. Only the 6-7 tribulation bodiless celestials present on the scene looked at Duan Lingtian fearlessly. After all, in their opinion, although Duan Lingtian was strong, he was only on par with 7 tribulation bodiless celestials. At this moment, an old man who was a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial scoffed before he stepped forward. He was none other than Elder Qi from the force where he was from, who had entered the underground palace and was killed by Zhang. At that time, he was the one who had summoned the mirror image to confirm that Duan Lingtian and Duan Lingtian were still alive. Duan Lingtian, and Duan Lingtian were still in the underground palace. For this reason, they had been waiting for Duan Lingtian and Duan Lingtian. Do you think you can escape from us just because you're as strong as a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial? Chapter 2447. Brat, you're too arrogant. Another 7 tribulation bodiless celestial said coldly as he looked at Duan Lingtian. He felt the purple-clad young man was too arrogant. Humph. Do you really think you can act arrogantly in front of us just because you're as strong as a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial? Do you know we have more than one 7 tribulation bodiless celestial here? Another 7 tribulation bodiless celestial scoffed as he looked at Duan Lingtian with a dark expression. The remaining 3 7 tribulation bodiless celestials did not say anything, but their eyes were filled with hostility when they looked at Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian is too arrogant. Does he really think he'll be able to resolve this crisis just because he's as strong as a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial? How naive! Even if one 7 tribulation bodiless celestial can't kill him and snatch his celestial supreme treasure, what about 2, 3, or 4 7 tribulation bodiless celestials? In my opinion, Duan Lingtian is going to be in trouble. The 6 tribulation bodiless celestials present on the scene looked at Duan Lingtian warily as they whispered among themselves. Based on their words, they did not think Duan Lingtian would be able to leave so easily. After all, the 7 tribulation bodiless celestials present on the scene were not to be trifled with. Based on this, the 6 tribulation bodiless celestials should not think about snatching the celestial supreme treasures from Duan Lingtian and his 2 companions. However, these 6 tribulation bodiless celestials could not help but daydream. Perhaps, when the celestial supreme treasures from Duan Lingtian and his 2 companions fell into the hands of a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial, that 7 tribulation bodiless celestial would fight with the other 7 tribulation bodiless celestials. In the end, both sides would suffer great losses and perish together. At that time, they would stand a chance. For this reason, they had stayed behind to wait for Duan Lingtian and his 2 companions to come out. Otherwise, they would not have wasted their time here. So what if there is more than one 7th tribulation scattered immortal? A sneer appeared on Duan Lingtian's face when he heard the 7 tribulation bodiless celestial's words. He said bluntly, "You're not qualified to make us return to the underground palace." After that, Duan Lingtian said to Han Xuanai and Zhang, "Xuanai, Zhang, let's go. I would like to see who dares to stop me." As his voice fell, Duan Lingtian had already stepped into the air unhurriedly, heading towards the direction indicated by the compass. From beginning to end, he had completely ignored the group of loose immortals. Han Xuanai and Zhang Yi were dumbfounded when they heard Duan Lingtian's greeting. He only felt that Duan Lingtian was too valiant. HM? After taking a few steps, Duan Lingtian discovered that Han Xuanai and Zhang Yi had not followed him. When he turned around, he saw the 2 of them standing motionlessly like statues. "Why are you in a daze? Let's go." Duan Lingtian, who had turned around, could not help but frown as he reminded her. All right. At this moment, the 2 of them finally regained their senses when they heard Duan Lingtian's voice. They stepped into the air and followed closely behind Duan Lingtian. Of course, they couldn't help but tremble in their hearts. They were curious. They wondered if the purple-clad young man was not afraid of the 7 tribulation bodiless celestials, or was he just bluffing? Although Han Xuanai had always been confident in Duan Lingtian, she could not help but feel nervous at this moment. After all, she did not know if Duan Lingtian was strong enough to deal with a few 7 tribulation bodiless celestials. Crazy! He's crazy! Duan Lingtian is crazy. He dares to disregard those 7 tribulation bodiless celestials. He's so arrogant. Is he not afraid of 7 tribulation bodiless celestials? I think he's just bluffing. The 6 tribulation bodiless celestials present on the scene felt chills running up their spines when they saw Duan Lingtian swaggering away after he finished speaking. They thought Duan Lingtian was crazy. Even if an eminent celestial possesses a celestial supreme treasure and has cultivated many amazing divine abilities and celestial methods, his strength should be comparable to a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial, right? I don't know about the mundane realm you're from, but the strongest eminent celestial in the mundane realm I'm from is only comparable to an ordinary 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. He's not even comparable to some powerful 7 tribulation bodiless celestials. There's only one eminent celestial whose strength is comparable to a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial in the mundane realm I'm from. It's similar in the mundane realm I'm from. The group of 6 tribulation bodiless celestials began to whisper among themselves. Based on their words, it was clear that Duan Lingtian was an eminent celestial. In the mundane realms where they lived, at most, there were eminent celestials whose strength was comparable to a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. There had never been an eminent celestial who was stronger than a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. The mundane realm we're from is a large mundane realm, but Duan Lingtian is from a small mundane realm, the Saint Province realm. That's right. In the history of the 4 large mundane realms, there's never been an eminent celestial whose strength is comparable to a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. Don't tell me a brat from a small mundane realm is stronger than a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial? That's impossible. He's just bluffing. He must be deliberately mystifying things. The group of 6 tribulation bodiless celestials began to whisper among themselves in just a blink of an eye. Meanwhile, the other 6 7 tribulation bodiless celestials were infuriated when they heard Duan Lingtian's words before he left. Some of the 7 tribulation bodiless celestials were so infuriated that their bodies began to tremble violently. The group of 6 tribulation bodiless celestials began to whisper among themselves. The group of 6 tribulation bodiless celestials shared the same thoughts as them. They did not think Duan Lingtian was stronger than a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Along with the sound of something breaking through the air, the 6th 7th tribulation loose celestials came back to their senses and moved at the same time. In just a blink of an eye, they had already surrounded Duan Lingtian and his 2 companions who had not gone far. The 3 people led by Duan Lingtian had no choice but to stop moving. Swoosh, swoosh. Han Xuanai and Zhang Yi's expressions changed drastically. 6 7 tribulation bodiless celestials? There are 6 7 tribulation bodiless celestials? Han Xuanai did not even need to think to know the people who dared to chase after her at this moment were the strongest 7 tribulation bodiless celestials among the group of bodiless celestials. Although she knew there were a few 7 tribulation bodiless celestials, she did not expect there to be 7 of them. So many 7 tribulation bodiless celestials? Zhang Yi was frightened. His body stiffened. It was as if he had been filled with lead. Boy, you're quite bold. Do you really think we can't see through your bluff? In the history of Muro Realm, Yanhuang Realm, Skyline Realm, and Vast Cloud Realm, the strongest eminent celestials from the 4 large mundane realms are only comparable to 7 tribulation bodiless celestials. Do you really think you're stronger than a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial and comparable to an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial? At this moment, apart from the 7 tribulation bodiless celestials who had spoken earlier, 2 of the other 7 tribulation bodiless celestials had spoken as well. At this moment, the 6 7 tribulation bodiless celestials looked at Duan Lingtian coldly. After all, Duan Lingtian was not an ordinary eminent celestial. Otherwise, he would be scared half to death by the cold gazes of 6th, 7th tribulation bodiless celestials. Scram. Duan Lingtian's expression darkened when he heard the words of the 7 tribulation bodiless celestials. His eyes flashed coldly as he shouted, "Kill them all!" Even a man made of clay had a temper. The words of these 7 tribulation bodiless celestials had completely enraged Duan Lingam. Scram? He told us to scram? I didn't hear wrongly, right? You didn't hear wrongly. I heard it as well. He really did tell us to scram. The 6, 7 tribulation bodiless celestials were furious when they heard Duan Lingtian's words. You're courting death. At the same time, one of the 6, 7 tribulation bodiless celestials took the initiative to shout coldly. The voice was so cold that it seemed to come from a world of ice and snow. Boom, boom. The moment the 7th tribulation bodiless celestial shouted, he seemed to have transformed into a bird. His hands moved like a pair of wings as he tore through the sky, leaving behind 2 earth-shattering sounds. The moment this 7th tribulation loose immortal moved. Shwa, shwa, shwa. The remaining 5, 7 tribulation bodiless celestials looked at the 7 tribulation bodiless celestial who attacked Duan Lingtian. It's him. At this time, they also discovered that the 7 tribulation bodiless celestial who lost his patience and attacked Duan Lingtian was none other than Elder Chi from the force that he ran belonged to before he was killed. Back then, it was through the mirror image displayed by this Elder Chi that they were able to confirm that he was right. The 3 people who had obtained the immortal supreme treasures were still in the underground palace where the Heaven Great Treasure Vault was located. The Elder Chi moved as the power on his body surged and took the shape of a bird. It was like an enormous goshawk that flashed towards Duan Lingtian with its wings spread. His hands were like the wings of a goshawk. They tore through the sky like 2 blades that could tear apart everything. Duan Lingtian's eyes turned cold as he looked at Elder Chi who was charging at him menacingly. At the same time, from every pore on his body, streaks of solid white sword light shot out one after another. In the end, his entire body was shrouded by the sword rays. Those with good eyesight would be able to see that Duan Lingtian's body was covered in sword rays. Chapter 2448. Today, this old man will behead you, a boastful brat. I'll show you what it means by there's always someone better than you. Elder Chi cried out coldly as he charged toward Duan Lingtian like an eagle. His figure tore through the sky like a hawk as he charged toward Duan Lingtian. His words were like the judgment of the Grim Reaper, deciding Duan Lingtian's fate. As soon as Elder Chi finished speaking, a voice rang in the air. There's always someone better than you? I'll have to see for myself what it means. In the distance, Duan Lingtian's voice resonated from the tens of thousands of sword rays that were gradually gathering. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, the tens of thousands of sword rays that were formed from his body and his energy emitted a series of ear-piercing sword whistling sound before they merged together. Under everyone's watchful eyes, they merged into one. When the thousands of sword lights merged into one, a white light that was as bright as the sun appeared. It was so bright and dazzling that the group of people present couldn't help but squint their eyes. When they narrowed their eyes, they discovered that a white light had appeared. The tens of thousands of sword rays fused together and emitted a strong white light. They turned into a white sword, a sword that looked very ordinary. This sword was so unremarkable compared to the thousands of sword gleams from before. This sword, however, the ordinary-looking sword caused the expressions of the 5-7 tribulation bodiless celestials to turn solemn. This was because they could vaguely sense something was amiss. This sword was not simple at all. Buzz, buzz. Elder Chi, who had turned into a goshawk, moved like a goshawk hunting its prey. The pair of wings formed by his hands tore through the sky like a pair of sharp blades that could cut through everything. Die! Suddenly, the elder with the surname Chi let out an explosive cry. The power on his eagle-like hands soared once again. Evidently, he had used up the last of his strength. The reason why Elder Qi tried so hard was because he could tell that the ordinary-looking sword Duan Ling Tian had transformed into was not simple. That seemingly ordinary sword floating in the void in the distance actually gave him a very strong sense of danger. He had no choice but to be on guard. You'll be the first 7 tribulation bodiless celestial that I, Duan Ling Tian, have killed in my life. When Elder Qi shouted and charged toward the sword that Duan Ling Tian had transformed into, Duan Ling Tian's voice resonated from the sword that Duan Ling Tian had transformed into. Buzz. As soon as Duan Ling Tian finished speaking, the inconspicuous sword he had transformed into swept across the air at a speed that was neither fast nor slow. The ordinary-looking sword swept across the air at a slow speed. At the very least, Han Xuanai and Zhang Yi, who were the weakest among them, could clearly see the sword's trajectory. However, they did not notice the sword's trajectory. The sword in the distance seemed to have casually swept across the air, but there was something else hidden in the sword's trajectory. Only the 7 tribulation bodiless celestials present on the scene could see the profundity of the sword. Even the 6 tribulation bodiless celestials were confused. This sword isn't just a sword. The expressions of the 5-7 tribulation bodiless celestials turned solemn at this moment. This was because they could see that the horizontal slash of Duan Ling Tian's sword was not simple at all. At first glance, it seemed as though the ordinary-looking sword had only swung once. However, they could clearly see the profundity hidden in the sword's trajectory. They had seen this profundity when Duan Ling Tian had killed the 6 tribulation bodiless celestial earlier. The immortal sword pierced through the air, and more than 5 sword rays followed closely behind, fusing into the immortal sword, causing the power of the immortal sword to skyrocket, displaying an extraordinary attack. At this moment, the sword that Duan Ling Tian had transformed into contained the same profundity when he swung it horizontally. Body and sword fusion. 13 green lotus swords. The bodiless celestials present on the scene had good judgment. After all, Duan Ling Tian's seemingly ordinary sword was not as simple as it seemed. Not only did it contain the 4th stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword, but it also contained the divine ability, the 13 green lotus swords, from the Devata realm. In Duan Ling Tian's opinion, the Sovereign Heart Sword was similar to celestial methods in the Devata realms that could be used together with divine abilities. Buzz. Buzz. The distance between Elder Qi and Duan Ling Tian grew closer and closer. His hands that were like the wings of an eagle tore through the sky as if they were capable of tearing and slashing apart everything. Swoosh. In the face of the menacing Elder Qi, the sword that Duan Ling Tian had transformed into swung horizontally, leaving a sword mark in the air at a speed that was neither fast nor slow. As soon as the mark appeared, it seemed as though it had torn the air apart, leaving an invisible gap in the air. The gap grew bigger and bigger. In the end, it was so big that it shrouded Elder Qi. Swoosh. A soft sound resonated in everyone's ears. It was the sound left behind when Elder Qi, who seemed to have transformed into a goshawk, and the sword that Duan Ling Tian had transformed into brushed past each other. Naturally, the sword that Duan Ling Tian had transformed into was still hovering in the air. It was just that Elder Qi had moved to the other side. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Everyone's gaze instantly shifted to the sword that Duan Ling Tian had transformed into and Elder Qi. Most of their gazes were constantly shifting between the two of them. Only the 5-7 tribulation bodiless celestials were looking at Elder Qi in unison. None of them looked at Duan Ling Tian's sword. Swoosh. The sword that was hovering in the air suddenly shone with a white light. When the white light faded away, Duan Ling Tian's figure appeared before everyone's eyes. After Duan Ling Tian appeared, his expression was calm. His gaze was indifferent as he looked at Elder Qi, who had crossed paths with the sword he had transformed into. He's unharmed? He's unharmed? Then that voice earlier. At this moment, almost everyone's gazes landed on Elder Qi. When everyone's attention was on Elder Qi's expression changed. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Elder Qi's body suddenly trembled. Then, a sinister and terrifying crack appeared between his eyebrows and spread across his entire forehead. It was a wound that was strong enough to kill a bodiless celestial. That was indeed the case. Elder Chi's aura was completely annihilated at this moment. Even his body trembled and disappeared from this world, completely disappearing without a trace. A 7 tribulation bodiless celestial had died just like that. Silence. The entire place was silent. After Elder Chi died, everyone's attention returned to Duan Lingtian. Brother Lingtian, he's able to kill a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial so easily? Doesn't this mean his strength is comparable to an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial? Han Xuanai looked at Duan Lingtian with a pleasantly surprised expression on her face. Her heart that was hanging in the air earlier had finally calmed down. Although she had always trusted Lingtian, she did not know about his strength. For this reason, she could not help but worry for him when he was in such a dangerous situation earlier. After all, she did not know how strong he was. She was worried for him when he was in such a dangerous situation. However, now that she saw Lingtian easily killing a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial, she could not help but heave a sigh of relief. This, Zhang Yi, on the other hand, was dumbfounded. In his opinion, what had just happened was something that he would never have dared to dream of. As a person from Yanhuang realm and a disciple of the Celestial Masters sect, he, naturally, knew about this. In the long history of Yanhuang realm, the strongest eminent celestial was only comparable to a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. However, at this moment, an eminent celestial whose strength was comparable to an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial had appeared before him. Earlier, I heard from the bodiless celestials from the other 3 large mundane realms that the strongest eminent celestials in the history of the 3 mundane realms were only comparable to a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. In other words, Duan Lingtian has made history. After the Beyond Heaven secret zone opened, an eminent celestial whose strength was comparable to a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial appeared in the Saint Province realm where Duan Lingtian was. That person was Feng Qingyang. That's not right. Feng Qingyang only possessed such strength after he obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial. Before he obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial, even if he obtained a celestial sword, his strength would only be comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. He's far weaker than Duan Lingtian. It's hard to imagine how terrifying Duan Lingtian's strength would be if he obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. Zhang Yi's heart skipped a beat when he thought about this. He was almost certain. If Duan Lingtian managed to obtain the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial, his strength would definitely surpass everyone in the mundane realms before he ascended. Even a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial would not be a match for him. When Zhang Yi thought about this, his eyes lit up when he looked at Duan Lingtian again. He was genuinely happy for Duan Lingtian. Gasp, 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 gasp. At the same time, the 6 tribulation bodiless celestials present on the scene gasped when they regained their senses. It was as though the pressure in the air had dropped significantly. He's so strong. Chapter 2449. Who else wants to come up and try? Duan Lingtian stood with his sword in hand, and the violet robe on his body fluttered in the wind. Although his long black hair that wasn't bound by a hairband fluttered in the wind, it didn't cover his handsome and calm face. His face was as calm as the clouds and as light as the wind. There was neither sorrow nor joy. However, when he looked at the other 5 7 tribulation bodiless celestials, his heart skipped a beat. Moreover, when they noticed Duan Lingtian's gaze, the 5 of them lowered their proud heads in unison. An 8 tribulation bodiless celestial. This purple-clad young man's strength was definitely comparable to an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial. The attack he cast earlier when he transformed into a sword is stronger than the attack of an ordinary 8 tribulation bodiless celestial. Even a slightly stronger 8 tribulation bodiless celestial would only be able to fight him to a draw. The 5 7 tribulation bodiless celestials who had witnessed Duan Lingtian's strength knew this very well. He's dead? A 7 tribulation bodiless celestial died just like that? Heavens! What kind of monster is Duan Lingtian? Wasn't he from the small mundane realm, the Saint Province realm? How can he be so freakish? Is he really an eminent celestial and not an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial? If he's a bodiless celestial, do you think he'll be able to enter the heaven-ranked treasure vault left behind by a great overarching golden celestial? The group of 6 tribulation bodiless celestials gasped. When they regained their senses, they could not help but whisper among themselves. When they looked at Duan Lingtian again, their eyes were filled with dread. They did not expect Duan Lingtian would be so fearsome. Why would they be afraid of a person who was not even 100 years old and was not even a bodiless celestial? I remember an eminent celestial from the Saint Province realm obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial the last time the mundane realm opened. After that person came out, he even killed an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial. A 6 tribulation bodiless celestial exclaimed. I know that person as well. His name is Feng Qingyang. He's a genius from the Saint Province realm. However, before that person obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial, his strength was only comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. It said that his strength was only comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial after he obtained the celestial sword. Another 6th-tribulation loose immortal said, This Duan Lingta, could it be that he has already obtained the inheritance of a zenith heaven golden immortal? A 6th-tribulation loose immortal couldn't help but guess. As soon as these words left his mouth, the entire place fell deathly silent. That was right. Perhaps this purple-clad young man had already obtained the inheritance of a great overarching golden celestial? Let's go! The group of 6 tribulation bodiless celestials and the 5-7 tribulation bodiless celestials were looking at Duan Lingtian warily when Duan Lingtian called out to Han Xuanai and Zhang Yi. Then, Duan Lingtian led Han Xuanai and Zhang Yi away in a leisurely manner. Their speed was not fast, but the group of bodiless celestials did not dare to chase after them. Moreover, when they saw Duan Lingtian had no intention of making a fuss about it, they heaved a sigh of relief. One of the 5-7 tribulation bodiless celestials sent a voice transmission to the others to discuss joining forces to deal with Duan Lingtian. However, in the end, no one paid any attention to him. Although there were 5 of them, and they were all 7 tribulation bodiless celestials. When they recalled Duan Lingtian's strength, they did not think they would stand a chance even if they joined forces. What a pity! We wasted so much time. One of the 7 tribulation bodiless celestials sighed. That's right. If I knew Duan Lingtian was so strong, I wouldn't have waited here for him to come out. This wait lasted for 2 whole years. Another 7 tribulation bodiless celestial said with a sigh. Apart from those who had arrived later, the group of bodiless celestials who had arrived earlier had waited for 2 years. However, based on the current situation, they had waited for 2 years in vain. Although we've waited for 2 years in vain, at least we survived. Think about those 2 people just now. Not only did they wait for nothing, they were also killed. Another 7 tribulation bodiless celestial said. Upon hearing the 7 tribulation bodiless celestials' words, the remaining bodiless celestials rejoiced inwardly. However, is Duan Lingtian really not a bodiless celestial? Even then, there were still people who were skeptical. He's definitely not a bodiless celestial. If he's a bodiless celestial, it's impossible for him to enter the heaven-ranked treasure vault. In the Beyond Heaven secret zone, bodiless celestials can't even enter a human-ranked treasure vault, let alone a heaven-ranked treasure vault. Even a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial can't enter a human-ranked treasure vault in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. 9 tribulation bodiless celestials are the strongest in the mundane realms. Soon after, someone refuted the 7 tribulation bodiless celestial's words. That's right. He's definitely not a bodiless celestial. More and more people chimed in. If he's not a bodiless celestial, it's impossible for him to be so strong even if he's an eminent celestial. Unless he has obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. A 7 tribulation bodiless celestial said solemnly. The inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial. The bodiless celestials present on the scene were shocked when they heard this. It was the most precious thing in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. There's another possibility. Before he entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone, he must have obtained an inheritance from a celestial in the mundane realm that's on par with a great overarching golden celestial. Someone else said, "That's possible." Many people nodded in agreement. "I don't think that's possible. If he has obtained such an inheritance, why would he enter the Beyond Heaven secret zone?" Someone said, "That's not necessarily true. Perhaps he entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone to benefit his friends and family? Moreover, who would complain about having too many celestial supreme treasures?" The other bodiless celestials refuted the former's words. At this moment, the source of Duan Lingtian's strength was a mystery. Duan Lingtian is an eminent celestial from the Saint Province realm. His strength is comparable to an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial. No matter what the bodiless celestials said, they were certain of one thing. Even Duan Lingtian did not expect this. After this battle, Duan Lingtian's reputation began to spread in the vast Beyond Heaven secret zone along with the bodiless celestials who had left. This also made more and more people aware of his existence. Duan Lingtian? An eminent celestial from the Saint Province realm whose strength is comparable to an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial? More and more people were shocked when they heard that Duan Lingtian had killed a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial with just a blow. However, there were even more people who did not believe it. What a joke! How can a mere eminent celestial kill a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial? I don't care if you believe it or not. I don't believe it. I don't believe it either. In the history of Muro realm, the strongest eminent celestial is only comparable to a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. Moreover, there are only a few eminent celestials like that in the long history of Muro realm. It's the same in Skyline realm. In my opinion, Duan Lingtian isn't an eminent celestial at all. He's most likely an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial. I heard Duan Lingtian can enter the heaven-rank treasure vault in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. If he's a bodiless celestial, it's impossible for him to enter it, right? Who knows if it's true or not? I don't believe it. News about Duan Lingtian spread like wildfire. However, many people did not believe that Duan Lingtian was so strong. They thought the news was baseless. Duan Lingtian killed a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial and a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial in just one blow? Then, he even brought Han Xuanai and Zhang Yi away with him under the watchful eyes of 5 7 tribulation bodiless celestials? Lu Xia, the woman who had left Duan Lingtian's group, was stunned when she heard the news about Duan Lingtian. She had spread the news because she hoped there would be more powerful bodiless celestials to deal with Duan Lingtian and the others. Who would have thought the bodiless celestials would not be able to stop Duan Lingtian even though they had gathered? Not only that, but a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial and a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial had also died. Duan Lingtian's strength is comparable to an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial? No, that's impossible. Impossible. That Duan Lingtian, how could he be so strong? Lu Xia couldn't believe it, nor was she willing to believe it. However, no matter how unwilling she was to believe it, she could faintly sense that the news was most likely true. In her opinion, Duan Lingtian had always been mysterious. Although she was shocked, she did not think it was impossible for him to be so strong. In another 6 months, I'll be able to sense the entrance to the vast cloud realm. At that time, I'll return as soon as I can. I don't want to run into Duan Lingtian in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. If I run into him, he won't let me go. In an instant, Lu Xia made up her mind. She would leave the Beyond Heaven secret zone in 6 months. Although he was certain there were many celestial supreme treasures and divine abilities in the Beyond Heaven secret zone, he was certain there were many celestial supreme treasures and divine abilities from the Devata realms. However, her previous experience allowed her to know her place. She knew that those things were not things that she could get her hands on. Therefore, she didn't even dare to think about those things now. I can only hope that I won't run into that Duan Lingtian in the next 6 months. Otherwise, with that Duan Lingtian's character, I'll definitely die. Thinking of this, Lu Xia's heart trembled with fear. After spending some time with Duan Lingtian, she had a rough understanding of Duan Lingtian's character. Chapter 2450. In the Beyond Heaven Secret Zone, many people believed that there was an eminent celestial capable of killing a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. The name of this eminent celestial swept through half of the Beyond Heaven Secret Zone like a hurricane. Although the Beyond Heaven Secret Zone was huge, it could not withstand the spread of 1 to 10, 10 to 100, and 100 to 1,000. Elder Brother Duan. He killed a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial? A woman dressed in fiery red robes stood in a secluded and quiet valley. Her beautiful and sexy lips moved slightly, and a hint of surprise could be seen in her bright eyes. The woman stood there, her fiery red robes fluttering in the wind, making her look like a fire spirit. How's this possible? Could it be that he has obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial in the Beyond Heaven Secret Zone? A woman dressed in white with a veil on her face stood nearby. Her eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Based on her words, it was clear she was surprised. These two people were none other than Feng Tianwu, the successor of the Blazing Phoenix progeny, the 5th absolute of the 7 absolutes sect, and Mu, the successor of the Prophet progeny, the 2nd absolute of the 7 absolutes sect. Half a year ago, the two of them had met. However, with their strength, they could only keep a low profile in the Beyond Heaven Secret Zone. Even an eminent celestial was not someone they could deal with. It's possible. Feng Tianwu nodded when she heard Mu Yi's words. We'll know when those people come out. If he has obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial, the feng shui compasses in the human rank and heaven rank treasure vaults that lead to the location of the great overarching golden celestial's inheritance will no longer work, Mu Yi said. Feng Tianwu nodded. Yes. Feng Tianwu nodded. She had heard about this when she had just entered the Beyond Heaven Secret Zone. Both Mu Yi and Feng Tianwu knew they were not in the Sword Saint's Secret Zone. Instead, it was the Beyond Heaven Secret Zone that connected 5 mundane realms, including the Saint Province realm. In the Beyond Heaven Secret Zone, apart from the young powerhouses below the age of 100 from the 5 mundane realms, there was also a group of bodiless celestials from the other 4 mundane realms. Among those loose immortals, there was no lack of 7th tribulation loose immortals and 8th tribulation loose immortals. Some people even said, this time, there was a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial among the bodiless celestials who had entered. They're out. After about half a day, Mu Yi's eyes lit up. As she spoke, she looked at Feng Tianwu. The compass they obtained, is it useful? Feng Tianwu could not help but ask. At this moment, she sincerely hoped that the compass they obtained would no longer work, since it would mean that her elder brother Duan had obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial. If the compass did not fail, it would mean that her elder brother Duan had not obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial. Every time the Beyond Heaven Secret Zone opened, only one great overarching golden celestial's inheritance would appear. Once the inheritance was obtained by someone else, all clues regarding the location of the inheritance would be lost and cut off. In other words, if her elder brother Duan had obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial, it would mean that all clues leading to the location of the inheritance would no longer work. The compass in their hands. It's still working. While Feng Tianwu stared at Mu Yi and waited for her response, Mu Yi quickly opened her eyes and murmured, I'm not sure what to do. As a heaven-defying Tao cultivator, Mu Yi knew a soul secret technique that prevented ordinary bodiless celestials from detecting her divine consciousness. For this reason, after she had met up with Feng Tianwu, they had not been discovered by a small group that had clues leading to the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial. A few days ago, the small group had entered a human-rank treasure vault. They had only come out today. As soon as they came out, they were noticed by Mu. At the same time, Mu discovered that they had obtained a new compass, and it was still working. It was guiding them to their next destination. Let's go. Let's follow them. Mu said to Feng Tianwu before leaving the quiet and secluded valley. Upon hearing this, Feng Tianwu immediately regained her senses and followed after her. Does this mean elder brother Duan did not obtain the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial? If he didn't obtain the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial, how did he manage to kill a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial? Feng Tianwu was very familiar with her elder brother Duan's strength. Before her elder brother Duan entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone, his strength was only comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. Even if elder brother Duan managed to obtain a celestial sword in the Beyond Heaven secret zone, his strength is only comparable to a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. However, according to the rumors, elder brother Duan managed to kill a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial with just a blow. Is it possible that elder brother Duan managed to obtain an offensive divine ability from a Devata realm and successfully comprehend it? Based on what I know, there might be divine abilities from Devata realms in the heaven-rank treasure vaults in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. It seems like elder brother Duan must have found a heaven-rank treasure vault. Feng Tianwu had once sacrificed her life for Duan Lingtian. At that time, Duan Lingtian had fallen in love with her and treated her as the most important woman in his life. Later on, he had also fallen in love with Feng Tianwu. Duan Lingtian did not hide anything from the woman he loved deeply who also loved him deeply. Due to this reason, he told Feng Tianwu about his situation in full detail. For this reason, Feng Tianwu was able to come to such a conclusion. If that's the case, this means elder brother Duan must have obtained a clue about the location of the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial, since there's a feng shui compass in the heaven-rank treasure vault that leads one to the location of the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial. Feng Tianwu could not help but feel excited when she thought about this. This meant that Duan Lingtian was not alone. She would have a chance to reunite with her elder brother Duan in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. In fact, the direction where Feng Tianwu and Mui were heading had an intersection with the direction where Duan Lingtian and the others were heading. That intersection was the location of the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial. At this moment, Feng Tianwu and Mui were not the only people from the Saint Province realm who were heading to the location of the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial. He's able to kill a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial? Gan Ru Yen was stunned when she heard about Duan Lingtian killing a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial with just a blow. That man's strength had already reached such a level? After a few moments, Gan Ru Yen finally regained her senses. At the same time, she looked at the young woman who looked exactly like her and said, I thought you've left him far behind with your current strength. I didn't expect him to continue to improve. A complicated expression appeared on Gan Ru Yan's face when she spoke. Unknowingly, not only had that man left her far behind, but even her younger sister had also left her far behind. Brother Tian must be stronger than me. The young woman who looked exactly like Gan Ru Yan was, naturally, Duan Lingtian's wife, Ke. She shook her head and smiled when she heard Gan Ru Yan's words. A hint of excitement could be seen in her beautiful eyes. Naturally, she was excited because she had a chance to meet Duan Lingtian. She was certain she would be reunited with her man in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. Ke knew Duan Lingtian better than Feng Tianwu, so she was certain of one thing. She was certain her man had obtained a celestial sword and an offensive divine ability from a Devata realm. However, she did not even think about obtaining a celestial technique. After all, she knew her man would not cultivate a celestial technique even if he obtained one. After all, a celestial technique would conflict with the sovereign heart sword that her man had mastered. Divine abilities from Devata realms can only be found in heaven-rank treasure vaults. This means Brother Tian must have entered a heaven-rank treasure vault before. Since he has entered a heaven-rank treasure vault, he must have obtained clues about the location of the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial. Sister and I have been through many human-rank treasure vaults on our way to the location of the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial. I'll be able to see Brother Tian when we arrive at the location of the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial. For this reason, Ke was so excited. So this is a celestial supreme treasure? It's indeed different from the weapons in the mundane realms. Somewhere in the beyond heaven secret zone, a golden-clad little girl was playing with an iron claw that gleamed coldly. With a single glance, one could tell that this iron claw wasn't forged from an ordinary iron ore. This was because it was emitting waves of terrifying cold air. Some of the non-body celestials present on the scene could not help but tremble when they sensed the cold air coming from the iron claw. At this moment, not only were there non-body celestials around the golden-clad little girl, but there was also a group of body celestials. Who's this little girl? Her strength? How could she be so strong? A body celestial asked in a trembling voice. His eyes were filled with fear as he looked at the golden-clad little girl in the distance. That's a 5 tribulation body celestial. He couldn't even withstand a single blow from her. The strongest body celestials present on the scene were only 4 tribulation body celestials when they recalled how the golden-clad little girl had killed the 5 tribulation body celestial. Chapter 2451. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The sound of wind whistling rang in the air. The golden-clad little girl had put on the iron claw and clawed at it. Rip, rip, rip. The golden-clad little girl's iron claw tore through the air, leaving behind a series of tearing sounds. One could vaguely see that there were cracks in the air. Claw marks appeared in the void, but the space was not torn apart. It was not because the little girl was weak or because the claw-shaped celestial supreme treasure in her hand was useless. It was because the space in the Beyond Heaven secret zone was too stable. In the Beyond Heaven secret zone, even a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial would not be able to tear the space apart. Gasp, 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 gasp. A series of gasps rang out. It was the group of onlookers. When they felt the commotion caused by the little girl using the celestial supreme treasure, their hearts trembled. They couldn't help but gasp in shock. The golden-clad little girl was none other than Little Gold from the Saint Province realm. She was also the jade-eyed heavenly mouse that followed Duan Lingtian in the past. Naturally, Little Gold was no longer a jade-eyed heavenly mouse. She had successfully evolved into a celestial beast, the crimson-eyed celestial devouring mouse. Previously, Little Gold had entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone with Little Black and Little White. However, when she entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone, she discovered that she was alone in a strange place. After that, she began to wander around the Beyond Heaven secret zone. She encountered many people who were plotting against her, but they were all killed by her. Today, she was in luck. She had heard there was an Earth-rank treasure vault here, so she had rushed over. When she arrived, she discovered there was a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial supreme treasure. She discovered the strongest 5 tribulation bodiless celestial was preparing to obtain the celestial supreme treasure. She had killed the 5 tribulation bodiless celestial and successfully obtained the celestial supreme treasure. What's wrong? Why are all of you eyeing the celestial supreme treasure in my hand? Don't tell me all of you want to snatch it from me? Sensing the fearful and fiery gazes around him, Xiao Jin waved the iron claws in his hand and looked at the surrounding people with a smile as he asked. The current Little Gold looked harmless to humans and animals. But when the grinning Little Gold entered the eyes of this group of people, it was no different than a smiling devil, and it terrified them to the point they hurriedly withdrew their gazes. There were even many people that hastily turned around and left as if they were deeply afraid that they would be caught in the crossfire if they were too late. How boring! Seeing that more than half of the people had left, Goldie felt bored. At the same time, it put away its iron claws and flew away in a random direction. From the beginning to the end, the people behind could only watch as Xiao Jin left. However, they did not have the courage to chase after Xiao Jin and snatch the immortal supreme treasure from him. Brother Ling Tian killed a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial with just a blow? Soon, Xiao Jin heard the news as he walked by. Although a lot of people thought that it was fake news, it was still not real. However, she did not think so. Initially, I thought I'm stronger than Brother Ling Tian. I didn't expect Brother Ling Tian to be strong enough to kill a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial with just a blow. This means Brother Ling Tian's strength is comparable to an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial at least. Little Gold thought to herself. However, She was not discouraged by the fact that brother Ling Tian was stronger than her. She was happy for Ling Tian from the bottom of her heart. Brother Ling Tian? His strength is comparable to an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial? Big brother Ling Tian is now so strong? Not long after Little Gold received the news, Little Black and Little White also received the news. Currently, Little Black and Little White had reunited. They were twins, after all. When their strength had reached a certain level, their bloodline connection could be amplified. Even in this vast and boundless beyond heaven's secret zone, he could still sense the other party's presence. For this reason, it was not difficult for them to find each other and reunite. At this moment, they had also heard the news about their brother Ling Tian. Since brother Ling Tian has been to the Heaven Rank Treasure Vault, he must have followed the clues he obtained in the Heaven Rank Treasure Vault to head to the location of the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial. It was not difficult for Little Black to figure this out. Let's continue on our way then. Coincidentally, we also found some clues in a human rank treasure vault. Little White looked at the feng shui compass in her hand before she called out to Little Black and flew in the direction indicated by the feng shui compass. Little Black followed closely behind. The 10,000 Beasts Heaven was one of the 81 Devata realms. At this moment, somewhere in the 10,000 Beasts Heaven, in a large hall of a palace that occupied a vast area and had a magnificent aura, there were 2 peerlessly beautiful women sitting at the head of the table and below the head of the table. The red-clothed woman with an enchanting figure and a bewitching face seemed to have suddenly sensed something and frowned slightly. What's wrong? Is something the matter? Unlike the red-clad woman who was seductive, the red-clad woman who was seated at the head of the table was dressed in a light green robe. She had a beautiful face and a pure and holy aura. She was the complete opposite of the red-clad woman. Sister, it's nothing. The red-clad woman shook her head when she heard the green-clad woman's words. However, the hesitant look in her eyes betrayed her thoughts. Go ahead if you have something to do. Based on your expression, it must be something urgent, the green-clad woman said with a smile. The green-robed woman said with a smile. Her smile bloomed like 100 flowers blooming. It gave people a feeling of bathing in the spring breeze. There are 3 little fellows who didn't ascend immediately after receiving the inheritance from the legacy blood pool. Moreover, they even entered the beyond heaven's secret zone. The higher-ups have ordered me to bring them back to the 10,000 Beasts Heaven. After the red-clad woman finished speaking, she looked at the green-clad woman reluctantly and said, Sister, we haven't seen each other for so many years. I really don't want to leave at this time. Silly girl. The green-clad woman shook her head and smiled. Why don't I go with you and have a look? It just so happens that I want to see what kind of person he is. Not only did he stay in the mundane realm, but he even entered the beyond heaven's secret zone after obtaining the legacy blood pool personally refined by your overlord. Generally speaking, those in the mundane realms who obtained a fortuitous encounter like the legacy blood pool would ascend to the Devata realms immediately. Naturally, there were also those who continued to stay in the mundane realms due to certain reasons. However, very few people would enter the beyond heaven's secret zone after obtaining such a fortuitous encounter. First of all, it was rare for the beyond heaven's secret zone to open. Secondly, these people were not allowed to enter the beyond heaven's secret zone. According to the rules of the beyond heaven's secret zone, those who entered the beyond heaven's secret zone must not have obtained any inheritance from a Devata realm. The reason for this rule was that the great overarching golden celestials who left their inheritances in the beyond heaven's secret zone did not want their inheritors to have other masters or sects in the Devata realms. The 3 little fellows the red-clad woman mentioned were none other than Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White. After the 3 of them obtained the inheritance from the legacy blood pool, it was equivalent to them being branded with the sect of the powerhouse who refined the legacy blood pool. According to the rules of the Beyond Heaven's Secret Zone, they were not allowed to enter the Beyond Heaven's Secret Zone. If they were discovered, their cultivation bases would be crippled and they would be expelled from the Beyond Heaven's Secret Zone. In the worst case, they would be executed. Naturally, not many people in the mundane realms knew about this rule of the Beyond Heaven's Secret Zone. For this reason, since ancient times, Many people who obtained inheritances from Devata realms had entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone. Some of these people were taken away from the Beyond Heaven secret zone by the forces they belonged to. Some of them had their cultivation bases crippled by the supervisor of the Beyond Heaven secret zone and were expelled from the Beyond Heaven secret zone. Some of them were even executed by the supervisor of the Beyond Heaven secret zone. Due to the uniqueness of the Beyond Heaven secret zone, the supervisor of the Beyond Heaven secret zone was usually a subordinate of a heavenly emperor from a Devata realm. Most people could not afford to offend them. Dying at the hands of a supervisor was usually a pointless death. After all, no force in the Devata realms would openly make an enemy out of the inspectors for the sake of someone who had obtained their sex inheritance. For this reason, when they discovered that the disciples of their respective sects had entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone by mistake, they would send someone to bring the disciples out of the Beyond Heaven secret zone before the supervisor of the Beyond Heaven secret zone discovered them. Now, the woman in red had received such an order. In the eyes of the people in the mundane realms, the Beyond Heaven secret zone contained the legacies and treasures left behind by great overarching golden celestials. Therefore, they all thought the Beyond Heaven secret zone was created by a perfected golden celestial. But in reality, this was not the case. The Beyond Heaven secret zone was first created by 81 heavenly emperors from the Devata realms. Since ancient times, it had been jointly managed by 81 heavenly emperors from the Devata realms. It was a platform for great overarching golden celestials in the Devata realms to look for their successors. In order to better manage the Beyond Heaven secret zone, the 81 heavenly emperors would usually send their subordinates as supervisors to oversee the various Beyond Heaven secret zones. Naturally, a single supervisor would have to oversee tens of thousands of Beyond Heaven secret zones. After all, there were too many Beyond Heaven secret zones. In that case, sister, let's depart now. I heard that the three little fellows entered the inheritance blood pool together. Moreover, it's said that they have great potential. That's why the higher-ups arranged for me to personally bring them to the 10,000 beasts heaven. The red-clad woman said to the green-clad woman. The red-clad woman seemed to be conversing casually with the green-clad woman, but based on her tone, one could tell that she was trying to say something. Chapter 2452. Now that you mention it, I'm even more interested in those three little fellows. The green-clad woman's eyes lit up when she heard the red-clad woman's words. Based on her words, it was obvious she was in high spirits. If that's the case, let's go together, sister. The red-clad woman said. Let's go. When the green-clothed lady opened her mouth once again, her figure, which was seated on the leader's seat in the large hall, gradually faded away before disappearing without a trace. In the next moment, the red-clad woman left as well. In an instant, the huge hall fell completely silent. Meanwhile, Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White, who were far away in the Beyond Heaven secret zone, were still unaware of the danger they were facing. If they were discovered by the supervisor of the Beyond Heaven secret zone, even if they did not die, they would lose their cultivation bases. Currently, Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White were still looking forward to the moment they could reunite with their big brother Ling Tian and big sister Ko. However, they were unaware that they were in danger. They did not know a crisis was approaching them. They were also unaware that someone was preparing to bring them out of the Beyond Heaven secret zone to the Devata realms. There was a Beyond Heaven pavilion in every Devata realm. There were 81 Devata realms in total. For this reason, there were 81 Beyond Heaven pavilions. To a certain extent, the Beyond Heaven pavilion was a transit point between the Devata realms and the Beyond Heaven secret zone. If a great overarching golden celestial wanted to leave his or her inheritance in the Beyond Heaven secret zone, he or she would have to register in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. After registering, one would be able to enter the Beyond Heaven secret zone through the transporting formation in the Beyond Heaven pavilion. Apart from that, one would also have to leave behind Heaven rank and Earth rank treasure vaults in the Beyond Heaven secret zone according to the rules of the Beyond Heaven pavilion. The Beyond Heaven pavilion was similar to the supervisor of the Beyond Heaven secret zone. They were subordinates of the heavenly emperors of the Devata realms. However, unlike the supervisor, there were many Devata realms. Due to the large number of members in the Beyond Heaven Pavilion, there was a mix of good and bad people. Some of them were even willing to sell the information they obtained from the Beyond Heaven secret zone for their own benefits. For example, if they discovered Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White who had violated the rules of the Beyond Heaven secret zone, they should immediately notify the supervisor so that the supervisor could punish them. However, the members of Beyond the Heavens sect who discovered that Xiao Jin, Xiao He, and Xiao Bai had violated the rules did not inform the supervisor. Instead, they informed the faction that had left the inheritance for Xiao Jin and the other two. They often did this kind of thing. Moreover, every time, they would be able to obtain generous rewards from it. Lord Meng, it is the three of them. In a secret room, a middle-aged man in uniform pointed at the three people in the two constantly changing mirror images in front of him and said respectfully to the woman in red standing in front of him. In one of the images, a golden-clothed little girl was hurrying on her way. In the other image, a black-clothed little boy and a white-clothed little girl were in a human-ranked treasure vault in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. They were dealing with one obstacle after another. The entire process was exceptionally easy. I discovered the black-clothed little boy and the white-clothed little girl by accident. When they make a move, a crescent-shaped blood moon mark would appear between their eyebrows. That's the mark of the Blood Moon Ridges people. The middle-aged man continued to speak. The words Beyond the Heavens sect were embroidered on the chest of the middle-aged man's uniform, indicating his identity as a member of the Beyond the Heavens sect. Since I discovered the two of them by accident, I searched through the people in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. In the end, I discovered the golden-clothed little girl. When she makes a move, a blood moon mark would appear between her eyebrows as well. The middle-aged man did not continue to speak after he reached this point. You've done well. When I bring the three of them out, I'll present the Blood Moon Ridge's gift of gratitude to you. The woman in red nodded in satisfaction. Thank you, Lord Meng. Upon hearing the woman in red's words, the middle-aged man's eyes narrowed as a bright smile appeared on his face. The reason he had tipped off the Blood Moon Ridge was because he wanted the Blood Moon Ridge's gift of gratitude. They're the dragons? At this moment, the green-clothed woman, who had been standing beside the red-clothed woman, suddenly narrowed her eyes as she stared at one of the images that was constantly changing. This was because in the mirror image, the black-clothed little boy and the white-clothed little girl had also transformed into their original forms. Two 8-clawed divine dragons. Mengyao, I want these two little fellows. The green-clad woman looked at the red-clad woman and said in a decisive tone, Sister, it's not a problem if you want to take them away. However, you'll have to ask the patriarch of your clan to inform our lord. The red-clad woman was not surprised by the green-clad woman's words at all. Otherwise, it'll be difficult for me to explain myself to the higher-ups. The red-clad woman could not help but smile wryly when she reached the end of her sentence. All right. The green-clad woman nodded. At the same time, she shifted her gaze to the two 8-clawed divine dragons in the mirror again. Lord Meng, this is? The middle-aged man standing at the side could not help but ask the red-clad woman when he realized the green-clad woman was not an ordinary person. She's my sister, Ji Xiang. The red-clad woman replied. Ji Xiang? The middle-aged man frowned. He felt as though he had heard this name before, but he could not recall where he had heard it from. My sister is a member of the dragons. The red-clad woman reminded him. Dragons? The middle-aged man's body trembled when he heard the red-clad woman's words. When he looked at the green-clad woman again, his voice trembled as he asked, Could she be the youngest elder of the dragons in our Wansho heaven, Elder Ji Xiang? The red-clad woman replied, Greetings, Elder Ji Xiang. I didn't know Elder Ji Xiang's identity earlier. Please forgive my rudeness, Elder Ji Xiang. After receiving confirmation from the red-clothed woman, the middle-aged man's body trembled. He immediately looked at Elder Ji Xiang and hurriedly bowed and apologized. The heavenly emperor of the Wansho heaven was no longer a member of the dragons. However, the dragon's foundation in the Wansho heaven was second only to the heavenly emperor of the Wansho heaven. Even the powerful Blood Moon Ridge was slightly inferior to the dragons. Activate the transportation formation that leads to the Beyond Heaven's secret zone. The green-clad woman, Ji Xiang, the youngest elder of the dragon clan in the 10,000 Beasts Heaven, ignored the middle-aged man's apology. She looked at him indifferently and said, "You're right." Yes. When the middle-aged man saw that Ji Xiang had no intention of arguing with him, he did not dare to slack off. He hurriedly made some arrangements and activated the transporting formation that led to the Beyond Heaven's secret zone. Although the Beyond Heaven sect was directly under the command of the Heavenly Emperor of the Wansho Heaven, he was not a member of the Wansho Heaven. However, he was aware of his own limitations. For an ordinary member of Beyond the Heavens sect like him, even if Ji Xiang killed 1,000 or 800 of them, the Sky Emperor would not stand up for him. Swoosh. As soon as the transportation formation was activated, Ji Xiang disappeared from the transportation formation in just a flash. The red-clad woman followed closely behind her. At the same time, in the Beyond Heaven secret zone that was connected to the Saint Province realm, Yanhuang realm, and the other 3 mundane realms, 2 more outsiders had arrived. They were the 2 people from the 10,000 Beasts Heaven in the Devata realm. Ji Xiang, an elder of the dragons. Dream Demon, a member of the Blood Moon Ridge. Swoosh. As soon as Ji Xiang arrived in the Beyond Heaven secret zone, her divine consciousness swept out like a hurricane and shrouded a large area. Her divine consciousness covered 1% of the Beyond Heaven secret zone. From this, one could see how powerful Ji Xiang, the youngest elder of the dragons in the Wansho Heaven, was. Just when Ji Xiang discovered that her 2 targets were not within the range of her spiritual sense and was about to withdraw her spiritual sense, she suddenly seemed to have sensed something and did not immediately withdraw her spiritual sense. A purple-clad young man appeared in the range of Ji Xiang's divine consciousness. He raised his hand and shot out a celestial sword. More than 5 sword rays shot out and merged with the celestial sword, causing it to shine brightly. Soon after, a 6th tribulation bodiless celestial was killed by him. This sword-wielding technique, it seems to be, Ji Xiang closed her eyes as she thought to herself. Scenes from many years ago appeared in her mind. Back then, a genius sword celestial had come to the Wansho Heaven and challenged the strongest clan leader of the dragons. That battle could be said to be earth-shattering and earth-shattering. At that time, she was only an ordinary disciple of the dragons. Since her parents were guardians of the dragons, she was able to witness the earth-shattering battle with her own eyes. In that battle, the godlike clan leader of the dragon clan was ultimately defeated by that genius sword immortal. How could the clan leader be defeated? How's that possible? Ji Xiang could not accept the truth at that time. I admit defeat. I'm completely convinced. With your current strength, it won't be difficult for you to challenge and replace the Heavenly Emperor of a Devata realm. Ji Xiang remembered the clan leader of the dragons had said to the genius sword Celestial Sword. Soon after, a piece of news came from the solitary destructive heaven, one of the 81 Devata realms. The Heavenly Emperor of the solitary destructive heaven had died after being challenged. The new Heavenly Emperor of the solitary destructive heaven was the one who had killed the former Heavenly Emperor of the solitary destructive heaven. The new Heavenly Emperor of the solitary destructive heaven is the genius sword Celestial who defeated the clan leader? Ji Xiang was completely dumbfounded when news of this spread to the Wansho Heaven and the dragons. She did not expect this. Chapter 2453. The reason Ji Xiang, the youngest elder of the dragons of the 10,000 Beasts Heaven, thought about the Heavenly Emperor of the solitary destructive heaven who had challenged their patriarch in the past was because of this. She had thought about the Heavenly Emperor of the solitary destructive heaven. She had sensed the sword-wielding technique cast by the purple-clad young man with her divine consciousness. The sword-wielding technique cast by the Heavenly Emperor of the solitary destructive heaven was even more profound. However, there were many similarities between the purple-clad young man's sword-wielding technique and the purple-clad young man's sword-wielding technique. Is he related to the Heavenly Emperor of the solitary destructive heaven? Even Ji Xiang didn't know why, but at this moment, Such a thought suddenly appeared in her mind. In the past, she would have thought this was ridiculous. The heavenly emperor of the solitary destructive heaven had a lofty status. How could he be related to someone from the mundane realms? However, she could see the heavenly emperor of the solitary destructive heaven in the purple-clad young man. For this reason, she was not certain if this thought was ridiculous or impossible. His cultivation base is only that of an eminent celestial. However, he could easily kill a sixth tribulation bodiless celestial. Although the sixth tribulation bodiless celestial did not possess a celestial weapon. Although Ji Xiang was an elder of the dragons of the 10,000 beasts heaven and had seen many geniuses, she could not help but exclaim in awe. She would not be surprised if she saw an eminent celestial who could easily kill a sixth tribulation bodiless celestial in the Devata realms. After all, eminent celestials in the Devata realms were not comparable to eminent celestials in the mundane realms. The celestial weapon that Ji Xiang mentioned was, in fact, a celestial supreme treasure. In the Devata realms, most people referred to celestial supreme treasures as celestial weapons. Apart from that, 99% of bodiless celestials could only use celestial weapons and not celestial methods and divine abilities from the Devata realms. This was because bodiless celestials' bodies could not withstand celestial methods and divine abilities at that level. Even if a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage had mastered celestial methods and divine abilities from the Devata realms before he failed the heavenly tribulation, he would not be able to use celestial methods and divine abilities at that level. Unless he wanted to die. Only after he became a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial and ascended to the Devata realm would he be able to cast the celestial methods and divine abilities from the Devata realm. This was the greatest disadvantage of itinerant immortals. He could only use celestial weapons and could not use celestial methods and divine abilities from the Devata realms. Of course, there were a small number of loose immortals who were exceptions. They were loose immortals who had mastered the soul congregation embodiment technique. They could cast offensive celestial methods and divine abilities in the Devata realms. It should be a coincidence. In the end, Ji Xiang shook her head. She felt that the purple-clad young man had nothing to do with the heavenly emperor of the solitary destructive heaven. It was just a coincidence that the sword-controlling technique they used was similar. Soon, Ji Xiang withdrew her divine sense and explored the other side. At this time, the red-clothed woman behind Ji Xiang, Dream Demon, did not stay idle. She extended her divine sense and searched for the black-clothed little boy and white-clothed little girl with Ji Xiang. Of course, she was also looking for the little girl in gold. I finally found a human-rank treasure vault. With this clue, I'll be able to meet Brother Ling Tian and Sister Kerr soon. The golden-clad little girl rose into the air from a lake. The tranquility of the lake was broken. The lake water splashed everywhere, but it didn't wet her clothes. The golden-clad little girl looked at the feng shui compass in her hand with an excited expression on her face. It's in this direction. Just as the golden-clad little girl was about to follow the feng shui compass, a gust of wind blew. As if a gust of wind had blown past, a red figure had appeared in the path of the little girl in gold. Who are you? The golden-clad little girl's expression changed drastically when she saw the red-clad little girl who had appeared out of thin air. Because this woman in red had appeared out of thin air in front of her eyes. She had no idea where she had come from, nor did she catch a glimpse of her. What did this mean? This meant the red-clad little girl was much stronger than her. Little girl, you're too greedy. The red-clad little girl was none other than the dream demon who had just entered the Beyond Heaven's secret zone. She looked at the golden-clad little girl and sighed softly. Since you've obtained the inheritance from the Blood Moon Ridge's legacy blood pool, you should ascend to the 10,000 beasts heaven. Even if you don't want to ascend, you shouldn't have come to the Beyond Heaven's secret zone. The dream demon said. Upon hearing the dream demon's words, the golden-clad little girl, Little Gold, was dumbfounded. The legacy blood pool? How do you know about the legacy blood pool? When Xiao Jin looked at the dream demon again, other than panic and fear, there was also confusion and disbelief in her eyes. She did not know how the red-clad little girl knew about the legacy blood pool and that she had obtained the inheritance from the legacy blood pool. The legacy blood pool you encountered was personally refined by the Lord of Blood Moon Ridge. Do you think I don't know about it? The dream demon asked. Blood Moon Ridge? Lord of Blood Moon Ridge? He's the one who refined the legacy blood pool? Little Gold muttered to herself. Then she looked at the dream demon and asked, Does this mean you're a celestial from a Devata realm? Little Gold's eyes lit up when she heard the dream demon's words. At this moment, she realized the red-clad little girl had no ill intentions toward her. Otherwise, why would the red-clad little girl tell her so much? With the red-clad little girl's strength, it would only take a blink of an eye for the red-clad little girl to kill her. Of course. The dream demon nodded and said, I'm here to bring you out of the Beyond Heaven's secret zone. Do you know how dangerous it is for you to enter the Beyond Heaven's secret zone? As she spoke, the dream demon's tone became serious. Dangerous? Little Gold was stunned when she heard the dream demon's words. Then she shook her head and said, As long as I don't provoke bodiless celestials who are stronger than me, I won't be in danger. Moreover, more than 90% of the people in the Beyond Heaven secret zone are weaker than me. Don't they still have to survive? Now, Little Gold only thought that the dream demon's danger came from those itinerant immortals who were stronger than her. The danger I'm referring to has nothing to do with bodiless celestials who are stronger than you, the dream demon patiently explained to Little Gold. After these words, Xiao Jin learned about the existence of the supervisor. At the same time, Xiao Jin also learned that she knew she had violated the rules of the Beyond Heaven secret zone by entering the Beyond Heaven secret zone after obtaining the legacy from the legacy blood pool. If I'm targeted by the inspectors, even if I don't die, I won't be able to keep my cultivation base? Little Gold's expression changed drastically. Yes. The dream demon nodded and said, Therefore, we have to leave as soon as possible. If we're targeted by the inspectors at this time, not only will you die, but I'll also be implicated. As she spoke, the dream demon's tone became somewhat hurried. I still have 2 friends. Little Gold's expression changed drastically. Little Gold's expression changed again as she thought about Little Black and Little White. She wanted the dream demon to bring them away as well. Your 2 friends should have left the Beyond Heaven secret zone by now. I'll bring you to them now. The moment Dream Demon's words left his mouth, he brought Little Gold and left. They stepped onto the transporting formation and returned to a secret room in the Beyond the Heavens sect. Little Gold. Just as Xiao Jin felt an ear-piercing light enter her eyes, 2 familiar voices rang in her ears. Little Black? Little White? Little Gold sighed in relief when she saw the black-clad little boy and the white-clad little girl. I'll bring them away. You can come to the dragons to receive your reward after a month. Another voice rang in Little Gold's ears at this moment. It was only at this moment that she discovered the red-clad woman, Little Black, and Little White were not the only people who had brought her out of the Beyond Heaven secret zone. A green-clad woman was talking to a middle-aged man who was dressed in a uniform. Thank you, Elder Ji Xiong. The middle-aged man thanked Ji Xiong with a joyful expression on his face. To him, the reward of the dragon race was an additional joy. In the beginning, all he wanted was the reward from Blood Moon Ridge. Moreover, when he found out the dragons wanted to bring 2 of the dragons away, he did not think he would be able to obtain the reward from the dragons. Dream Demon, I'll make a move first. Following that, Xiao Jin noticed that the green-robed woman glanced at the red-robed woman beside her before leaving with Xiao He and Xiao Bai. From the beginning until the end, she did not manage to speak to Little White and Little Black at all. Little Black, Little White. Little Gold's expression changed drastically. She looked at the red-clad woman and asked anxiously, where did she bring Little Black and Little White? Don't worry. She won't harm your 2 friends. She's only bringing them home. Before Little Gold could react, the Dream Demon had already left with Little Gold. From the beginning until the end, Little Gold did not have the strength to resist at all. Her power is too strong. Even a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial from the mundane realms can't compare to her. Little Gold, who had struggled to no avail, was shocked when she was brought away by the dream demon. It's a pity I missed the chance to see Brother Ling Tian and Sister Kerr again. Little Gold felt bitter when she thought about how she was brought away from the Beyond Heaven secret zone to the 10,000 Beasts Heaven, one of the Devata realms. I wonder when I'll be able to see Brother Ling Tian and Sister Kerr again. Now, Xiao Jin sensed that the surrounding air was filled with an exaggeratedly dense amount of heaven and earth spiritual energy. Chapter 2454. Naturally, Duan Lingtian was unaware of what had happened to Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White. He did not know the three of them had been abducted while they were on their way to look for him. Moreover, they had been abducted to a Devata realm, somewhere in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. We're too late. The three of them were travel-worn when they arrived at a lofty mountain range. They looked at the old man who was surrounded by a group of people as he held a broad saber in his hand. A terrifying aura was faintly emitted from the saber. Buzz, 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 buzz. As soon as the old man channeled his energy into the saber in his hand began to vibrate violently. Saber rays continued to radiate from the saber as though it was indestructible. Good saber! Good saber! At the same time, the old man laughed heartily as he held the saber in his hand. A7 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial? Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes when he heard the people whispering among themselves. Duan Lingtian learned from the people around him that the old man was in a treasure vault. This was an earth-rank treasure vault. The saber in the old man's hand was the celestial supreme treasure in this earth-rank treasure vault. Before the old man arrived, 2-6 Tribulation Bodiless Celestials had fought to the death for this saber. However, when the old man arrived, he did not even bother to wait for the 2-6 Tribulation Bodiless Celestials to injure each other. Instead, he killed the 2-6 Tribulation Bodiless Celestials. He had revealed his strength as a 7 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial. A 7 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial. When the people present on the scene realized the old man was a 7 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial, they no longer dared to dream about obtaining the celestial supreme treasure. What a joke! The old man was a 7 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial. Trying to snatch a celestial supreme treasure from a 7 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial was like trying to snatch food from a tiger's mouth. If he doesn't manage to obtain the celestial supreme treasure, the saber would belong to you, Brother Ling Tian. Han Xuanai, who was standing next to Duan Lingtian, sighed as she looked at the old man who was laughing. In her opinion, even if this old man was a 7th Tribulation Loose Immortal, as long as he hadn't obtained an immortal supreme treasure, he was no match for her brother Ling Tian. After all, her brother Ling Tian had killed a 7 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial. His strength was comparable to an 8 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial. However, now that this 7 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial had obtained a celestial supreme treasure, it meant his strength was comparable to an 8 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial who did not possess a celestial supreme treasure. He was on par with her brother Ling Tian. At this time, it would be difficult for her big brother Ling Tian to snatch the immortal supreme treasure from him. Zhang Yi, who was standing on the other side of Duan Lingtian, didn't say anything, but it wasn't hard to tell from his pitiful eyes. His current thoughts were the same as Han Xuanai's. Who's boasting shamelessly? This woman said that if the 7th Tribulation Bodiless Celestial didn't obtain the celestial supreme treasure, the man beside her would be able to obtain it? Although Han Xuanai's voice was not loud, everyone present on the scene heard her clearly. Many people turned to look at Han Xuanai and Duan Lingtian in unison. This was because they could hear the voice of the 7th Tribulation Bodiless Celestial. The big brother Ling Tian the woman spoke of was none other than this purple-clad young man. After the 7th Tribulation Bodiless Celestial obtained the celestial supreme treasure, his strength is comparable to an 8 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial who doesn't possess a celestial supreme treasure. Based on the woman's words, the purple-clad young man beside her is comparable to an 8 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial? Is it possible that he's an 8 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial? More and more people turned to look at Duan Lingtian curiously. They were curious if Duan Lingtian was an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial. Although they were curious, none of them used their divine consciousness to probe Duan Lingtian's cultivation base. After all, probing another person's cultivation base was considered presumptuous. In their opinion, this was not the case. If they probed the purple-clad young man with their divine consciousness, it would be fine if he was not an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial. However, if he was an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial, he might even kill them out of anger. For this reason, even though they were skeptical, they did not dare to confirm it themselves. 8 tribulation bodiless celestial? At this moment, the old man who obtained the celestial supreme treasure, a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial, heard the commotion and turned to look at Duan Lingtian. "It's you." As soon as he saw Duan Lingtian, he could not help but cry out angrily. It was as though Duan Lingtian was his sworn enemy. As soon as the old man shouted, a vast amount of energy surged out of his body. A portion of his energy was channeled into the saber in his hand, causing it to radiate with terrifying saber rays. "HM?" The old man's actions were so loud that it instantly attracted everyone's attention, including Duan Lingtian and the other two. What's going on? This 7 tribulation bodiless celestial knows the purple-clad young man? Based on his actions, it seems like he has a grudge with the purple-clad young man. This is interesting. At this time, the group of onlookers could also see the enmity the old man had towards the purple-clothed young man from his expression and behavior. Moreover, it seemed to be an extraordinary enmity. It was as though the purple-clad young man was his sworn enemy. "Brother Lingtian, do you know him?" Han Xuanai was stunned as well. She could also feel the rage coming from the old man. She could not help but ask Duan Lingtian. Although Zhang Yi did not ask, he could not help but look at Duan Lingtian. "I've never seen him before." However, Duan Lingtian shook his head. He was 100% sure of it. He was certain he had never seen the old man before, let alone become enemies with him. Could he be related to those people I killed before? Duan Lingtian could only think of this possibility. After all, since he entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone, he had killed many people. The scene of some of them being killed must have been transmitted to the people behind them in the form of a mirror image through a method similar to the mirror image talisman. That's the only possibility. No matter how Duan Lingtian thought about it, he still felt this was the only possibility. Whoosh! At the same time, Duan Lingtian sensed a powerful divine sense surging toward him. A powerful divine sense swept towards him without any concealment. In the blink of an eye, it enveloped him, giving him a feeling that he had nowhere to hide. "You're both eminent celestials like Rong Bo from the Lian sect. Since you're able to kill him so easily, it means you're quite strong. In fact, your strength is comparable to an ordinary bodiless celestial. Unfortunately, you're unlucky to have encountered me." Under the watchful eyes of the others, the old man who was glaring at Duan Lingtian with rage in his eyes finally spoke. "Rong Bo." The people present on the scene were confused when they heard the old man's words. They had no idea what the old man was talking about. He's from the Lian sect from the Skyline Realm? At this moment, some of the people from the Skyline Realm were startled. "Rong Bo." Zhang Yi, who was standing next to Duan Lingtian, narrowed his eyes when he heard the old man's words. A shocked expression could be seen on his face. As it turns out, he's from the Lian sect where Rong Bo is from. No wonder he's so hostile toward Duan Lingtian. Since he recognized Duan Lingtian, it means he saw the mirror image of Duan Lingtian killing Rong Bo. He knows Rong Bo was killed by Duan Lingen. At this moment, Zhang Yi finally understood why the old man was so hostile toward Duan Lingtian. Since the old man was a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial from the Lian sect, it meant he had a high status in the sect. For this reason, the old man would not let the matter rest when Rong Bo, the most outstanding disciple in the Lian sect, was killed by someone else. For this reason, it was only natural the old man was hostile toward Duan Lingtian. As it turns out, he's Rong Bo's backer. Han Xuanai finally understood. Along the way, she had heard Zhang Yi mention how he and her brother Lingtian knew each other. During this time, Zhang Yi had also mentioned Rong Bo. She had also heard about how Rong Bo was killed by her brother Ling Tian. I see. In fact, Duan Ling Tian had guessed the old man had something to do with the person he had killed in the past. However, he did not expect the old man to be so bold. He did not expect the old man to be Rong Bo's backer. An eminent celestial? Earlier, the seven tribulation bodiless celestial said the purple-clad young man is an eminent celestial? Impossible. If the purple-clad young man is an eminent celestial, why would the woman be so bold as to say the purple-clad young man is capable of killing a seven tribulation bodiless celestial? Maybe she's just bragging? That's possible. At the same time, everyone's attention shifted to the old man's words. Earlier, the old man had said Duan Lingtan was only an eminent celestial. Bragging? Bragging? How dare she underestimate brother Ling Tian? Upon hearing the words of the surrounding people, Han Xuanai was so angry that her face turned red. She couldn't help but retort loudly. She retorted, "It's not like my brother Ling Tian hasn't killed a seven tribulation bodiless celestial before. Previously, my brother Ling Tian killed a seven tribulation bodiless celestial with just a blow. Although my brother Ling Tian is only an eminent celestial, his strength is comparable to an eight tribulation bodiless celestial." Han Xuanai could not hold back her anger when she heard the people in the surroundings saying she was bragging and looked down on her brother Ling Tian. An eminent celestial killed a seven tribulation bodiless celestial with just a blow? His strength is comparable to an eight tribulation bodiless celestial? However, when they heard Han Xuanai's words, many people found them familiar. She called the purple-clad young man brother Ling Tian. Could it be that the purple-clad young man is Duan Ling Tian? Not only was he not afraid of the old man, but he even said he would pay with his life if the old man dared to seek revenge from him. How arrogant! How arrogant! The old man was instantly enraged, and his entire body began to tremble violently. Duan Lingtan is still so calm at this moment? Don't tell me he's really confident he can kill a seven tribulation bodiless celestial who possesses a celestial supreme treasure? What a joke! In the mundane realm, there are only two kinds of people who can kill a seven tribulation bodiless celestial. One is an eight tribulation bodiless celestial who possesses a celestial supreme treasure, and the other is a nine tribulation bodiless celestial. That's right, Duan Ling Tian is just an eminent celestial. It's impossible for him to kill a seven tribulation bodiless celestial who possesses a celestial supreme treasure. Although Duan Ling Tian was very confident, not many people in the crowd believed he was capable of killing the old man. Brother Ling Tian. Han Xuanai was stunned when she sensed Duan Ling Tian's confidence. In her opinion, Duan Ling Tian was very confident. In her opinion, Ling Tian's strength was, at most, comparable to a seven tribulation bodiless celestial who possessed a celestial supreme treasure. The old man in front of them was a seven tribulation bodiless celestial who possessed a celestial supreme treasure. However, based on Ling Tian's words, it seemed like he was confident he could kill the old man. He's a seven tribulation bodiless celestial who possesses a celestial supreme treasure. Where does Duan Ling Tian get his confidence from? Zhang Yi was confused as well. He and Han Xuanai trusted Duan Ling Tian. Therefore, they felt Duan Ling Tian was not bluffing. They believed Duan Ling Tian was capable of killing the seven tribulation bodiless celestial. However, they could not figure it out. Where did Duan Ling Tian get his confidence from? They more or less knew about Duan Ling Tian's background. Han Xuanai, in particular, knew a lot about Duan Ling Tian. Brother Ling Tian's assist-type divine ability can raise his strength by 2 levels. His celestial sword can raise his strength by 1 level. Moreover, the 4th stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword gives him the body and sword fusion technique that can raise his strength by 2 levels as well. Coupled with the divine ability, the 13 Green Lotus Swords, that can raise his strength by 1 level. His strength is only comparable to an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial. Han Xuanai shook her head. She could not figure out where Ling Tian's confidence came from. Could it be? Suddenly, a thought flashed through Han Xuanai's mind. She seemed to have thought of something and her eyes lit up. Duan Lingtan. At this moment, the old man from the Skyline Realm's Li Yen sect shouted. His angry voice interrupted Han Xuanai's train of thought and caught Han Xuanai's attention. Since you're so eager to die, I'll fulfill your wish. As soon as the old man finished speaking, he charged out like a hurricane. The celestial saber in his hand shone with a dazzling light as though it was capable of splitting heaven and earth apart. Buzz, 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 buzz. As the old man moved, the sound of saber humming rang in the air. It was so dense that it made one's scalp tingle. As the strongest bodiless celestial from the Li Yen sect in the Beyond Heaven secret zone, the old man's strength was, naturally, extraordinary. He could be considered as one of the strongest 7 tribulation bodiless celestials. Moreover, he had obtained a celestial supreme treasure, so it was as though he had the help of a god. Elementary devouring tactic. As soon as the old man finished speaking, Duan Lingtian cast the assist-type divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic, and devoured the heaven and earth spirit energy in the surroundings, causing his strength to rise by 2 levels. At the same time, his eyes turned cold as he spat out 4 words. Submission of 10,000 soldiers. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, the celestial sword that had appeared out of thin air turned into a sword ray that circled around his body. It emitted a sharp aura as it spun around him. At the same time, as the immortal swords transformed into sword gleams that circled around him rapidly, more and more sword gleams were produced. At first, there were 180 sword rays. Then, there were 1,800 sword rays. In the end, there were 10,000 sword rays. As soon as the sword rays finished transforming, they whistled in the air and appeared above Duan Lingtian's head. They formed a profound and complicated sword formation in an orderly manner. It was a shocking sight to behold. In just a blink of an eye, the sword formation above Duan Lingtian's head was completely formed after Duan Lingtian took out the celestial sword. During this process, those with weaker cultivation bases did not even have time to react. The sword array that was formed in the blink of an eye attracted almost everyone's attention at this moment. This was because the first impression that the sword formation gave off was that it was gorgeous, incomparably gorgeous. Bush, 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 bush. Just as almost everyone's attention was on the sword formation above Duan Lingtian's head, a strange energy fluctuation spread out from the sword formation. It was as fast as lightning. One could vaguely see, in the void, with the sword formation as the center, ripples spread rapidly to the surroundings. In just a blink of an eye, it covered a large area, including the old man who was charging at Duan Lingtian. At this moment, the old man who was about to attack Duan Lingtian with his celestial saber suddenly discovered that Duan Lingtian's attack was too fast. The celestial saber in his hand suddenly started to vibrate strangely. What's going on? In the next moment, the old man's expression changed drastically. He realized that the celestial saber was vibrating more and more violently. It even started to reject the energy he was pouring into it. It was like a disobedient child. In the blink of an eye, numerous hideous and terrifying bloody marks had appeared on the old man's hand that held the immortal blade tightly, and it was dazzling and resplendent as blood dripped from it. If I don't let go, my hand will be crippled. After realizing this, the old man decisively let go of the immortal saber in the blink of an eye. Whoosh! Chapter 2456. This, my sword, my saber. When the old man, the 7 tribulation bodiless celestial from the Li Yen sect in the Skyline realm let go of the celestial saber in his hand, exclamations rang in the air, attracting the old man's attention. The old man saw it clearly. Among the surrounding people, those who did not store their weapons in their storage rings, carried weapons on their backs, or were holding weapons in their hands also had their weapons injured and fell out of their hands at this moment. Bush, 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 bush. Under everyone's watchful eyes, whether it was the old man's celestial saber or the weapons of the people in the surroundings, all of them flew in the same direction at an exaggerated speed. It was the direction of the sword formation formed by the 10,000 sword rays above Duan Lingtian's head. At this moment, the dazzling sword formation hovering above Duan Lingtian was like a terrifying magnet that attracted the weapons one by one. It shrouded them in the sword formation and forcefully cut off the connection between them and their owners. What kind of technique is this? Even the celestial supreme treasure in the hands of the seven tribulation bodiless celestial has been taken away by him. Isn't this too terrifying? Is he even human? When the people in the surroundings saw the weapons that were enveloped by the sword formation above Duan Lingtian's head, they felt chills running down their spines. After all, one of the weapons was a celestial supreme treasure. Moreover, it was a celestial supreme treasure in the hands of a seven tribulation bodiless celestial. How's this possible? The old man, who was charging toward Duan Lingtian in a ferocious manner, immediately came to a halt when he saw this strange scene. When had he ever seen such a strange scene in his life? Submission of 10,000 soldiers. This is the submission of 10,000 soldiers. When Han Xuanai saw the sword formation above Duan Lingtian's head, she could not help but feel her heart tremble in fear. She was shocked by the celestial saber and the sword formation. Brother Lingtian. He actually comprehended the fifth level of the Sovereign Heart Sword, which was created by Patriarch Feng Qingyang before he ascended. I've long heard that if you comprehend the fifth stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword created by Patriarch Feng Qingyang, you'll be able to master a technique called Submission of 10,000 Soldiers. Once you use it, even an ordinary celestial supreme treasure will have to submit to you. Just now, when Han Xuanai saw Duan Lingtian's confidence, she already had some guesses. However, it was just a guess. She had never thought that her big brother Lingtian had really comprehended the fifth level of the Sovereign Heart Sword, the heart and sword as one, and mastered the submission of 10,000 soldiers. What kind of technique is this? Zhang Yi could not help but stare at the scene in front of him with his mouth agape. Everything that had happened before his eyes was beyond his imagination. Initially, when he saw the seven tribulation bodiless celestial from the Li Yen sect in the Skyline realm making a move with his celestial supreme treasure, he was not worried about Duan Lingtian's safety. However, he thought Duan Lingtian would, at most, come to a draw with him. He did not expect Duan Lingtian to be so confident. He did not expect the seven tribulation bodiless celestial to lose his celestial supreme treasure before they even started fighting. Duan Lingtian's technique seems to be more powerful than the body and sword as one technique he had used before. Although Zhang Yi did not know what technique Duan Lingtian had used, it did not affect his judgment. That's right. The rumor from before seemed to say that Duan Lingtian came from the Saint Province realm. Suddenly, an old woman wearing gray clothes and holding a walking stick couldn't help but ask the person beside her in a low voice. Yes. What? Is there something wrong? Did you think of something? At this time, the old woman suddenly said such a sentence, which immediately made people feel the different meaning contained in it. They faintly realized that the old woman's words contained different meanings. The old woman's question was most likely related to Duan Lingtian's shocking technique. There's a record in a letter passed down from generation to generation in my sect. Many people, including me, didn't think it was true. But now, it seems that it should be true. The old woman's expression was solemn as she spoke under everyone's watchful eyes. As more and more people turned to look at her, she continued to say, according to the records in the handwritten letter passed down by my sect, it's about the last time the Beyond Heaven's secret zone opened. I'm sure many of you know who obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial the last time the Beyond Heaven's secret zone opened. After she finished speaking, she glanced at the people in the surroundings. I know that. The person who obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial was also from the Saint Province realm like Duan Lingtian. His name was Feng Qingyang, and he was a genius sword cultivator. Soon after, someone chimed in. That's right. That's him. I've heard of him as well. More and more people nodded in agreement. They more or less knew who obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial the last time the Beyond Heaven's secret zone opened. It was none other than Feng Qingyang from the Saint Province realm who obtained the inheritance. The record in the manual that was passed down from generation to generation stated that after Feng Qingyang obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial, he killed an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial. The old woman glanced at the dazzling sword formation hovering above Duan Ling Tian before she continued to say, "The person who left the letter is an ancestor of my sect. He's a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. At that time, he happened to be present." He said Feng Qingyang had cast a powerful celestial method and snatched the celestial supreme treasure from the 8 tribulation bodiless celestial. Then, he used the celestial supreme treasure to kill the 8 tribulation bodiless celestial. At this point, the old woman's eyes couldn't help but light up. As soon as the old woman finished speaking, an uproar broke out among the crowd. This was because it had been 100,000 years since the last time the Beyond Heaven secret zone opened. Although there were more or less information about what had happened back then, it was not very detailed. For example, none of them had heard of what the old woman had just said. All they knew was that after Feng Qingyang obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial, he killed an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial. However, they knew nothing about how he killed the 8 tribulation bodiless celestial. Feng Qingyang and Duan Ling Tian are both from the Saint Province realm. The old woman's eyes lit up as she looked at Duan Ling Tian. The technique Duan Ling Tian used is similar to the technique Feng Qingyang used in the past. For this reason, I suspect he's using the same technique as Feng Qingyang in the past. It's very likely that he's related to Feng Qingyang in the past. When the old woman reached the end of her sentence, she dropped a bombshell that shocked everyone present on the scene. "Senior, you're very observant." While everyone was still looking at Duan Ling Tian skeptically, Duan Ling Tian looked at the old woman in surprise. Then he smiled and said, "The technique I'm using now is from Senior Feng Qingyang. To a certain extent, I can be considered as his successor." Duan Ling Tian's words verified the old woman's words. As expected. After the old woman heard Duan Ling Tian's words, she knew her guess was correct. Heavens! Duan Ling Tian is Feng Qingyang's successor? This is unbelievable. The last time the Beyond Heaven secret zone opened, Feng Qingyang managed to obtain the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial. However, this time his successor has appeared. Why do I have a feeling the Beyond Heaven secret zone was open just for them? If it wasn't for the fact that the Beyond Heaven secret zone is a legacy left behind by a great overarching golden celestial from a Devata realm, I would suspect that it was predetermined who obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial. Everyone was shocked when they found out Duan Ling Tian was Feng Qingyang's successor. Go. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian's voice rang in everyone's ears, causing them to regain their senses. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. As soon as Duan Ling Tian finished speaking, the sword formation above his head suddenly shone brightly. It was as though it had transformed into a dazzling sun. It was so dazzling that everyone could not help but squint their eyes when they saw it. At the same time, sword rays shot out of the sword formation toward the old man who was standing nearby. He was the 7 tribulation bodiless celestial from the Li Yen sect in the Skyline realm. When the old man finally regained his senses, he was already shrouded by a dazzling light. The light was formed by sword rays, and one could vaguely see a saber ray mixed in with it. The saber ray was none other than his celestial saber. Swoosh! The old man's expression changed drastically when he sensed the destructive aura contained in the dazzling light. Boom! The power in his body surged, and he wanted to escape from this place at the first possible moment to avoid this devastating blow that was coming at him with devastating force. It's too late. However, Duan Ling Tian's indifferent voice resonated in the air when the old man's expression changed drastically and his strength skyrocketed. At the same time, before the old man could make a move, the tens of thousands of sword rays and various weapons that shot out from the sword formation above Duan Ling Tian's head had already transformed into a vast ocean that drowned the old man. Boom, 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 boom. A series of earth-shattering explosions rang in the air. Wave after wave of vast shock waves swept out in all directions along with the pressure of the air waves. Before the people in the surroundings could react, the shock waves slammed into them. In just a blink of an eye, some of the weaker cultivators were sent flying by the impact. Chapter 2457. What a powerful force! How terrifying! His strength is comparable to the full-powered attack of a powerhouse at the 8th form of the Saint's celestial stage, right? It seems like the rumor of Duan Lingtian killing a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial with just a blow is true. The people who were sent flying or injured by the force had a lingering fear on their faces when they finally managed to regain their footing. When they looked at the purple-clad young man with the sword formation above his head again, they had a complicated expression on their faces. Their expressions became incomparably complicated. Waves of fear and alarm involuntarily appeared in their eyes. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A gentle breeze blew past, and the aftershock of the attack gradually dissipated. At the same time, the people present on the scene looked at the spot where the 7 tribulation bodiless celestial from the Skyline Realm's Li Yen sect stood. They discovered that the 7 tribulation bodiless celestial was nowhere to be seen. In fact, not even a single trace was left behind. It was as though he was never there. A 7 tribulation bodiless celestial? That's a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. At this moment, almost everyone knew that the 7 tribulation bodiless celestial was dead. The 7 tribulation bodiless celestial from the Skyline Realm's Li Yen sect was dead. He had died without leaving a trace. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Another series of whistling sounds resonated in the air. The weapons that were forcefully seized by the sword formation above Duan Lingtian's head earlier had returned to the hands of their original owners one by one. Naturally, the celestial saber that had lost its owner was now in Duan Lingtian's hands. As soon as the celestial saber appeared in his hand, the mysterious sword formation above Duan Lingtian's head gradually faded away. At the same time, a celestial sword fell from the sky and landed in Duan Lingtian's hand. With a wave of his hand, Duan Lingtian put the 2 celestial supreme treasures away. Then, he stood with his hands on his back as he looked ahead indifferently. Nobody knew what he was thinking about. Naturally, Duan Lingtian only looked calm on the surface. Many thoughts flashed through his mind. I didn't know that the 5th level of the Sovereign Heart Sword, Heart and Sword as one, would grant me such a domineering technique. 10,000 soldiers submit, 10,000 soldiers submit. That's an immortal supreme treasure, yet I still managed to seize it. Although Duan Lingtian already knew that the situation would be like this, when he saw it with his own eyes, he could not help but feel shocked. After all, this was the first time he had used the 10,000 soldiers submission technique that was given to him by the 5th stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword ever since he successfully comprehended the 5th stage. It was also the first time he truly witnessed how terrifying the 10,000 soldiers submission technique was. Just now, he had used the sword formation to seize the weapons from all directions, and then used the sword formation as a medium to execute a thunderous strike. The power of that strike was even stronger than the man and sword as one. Although the power of his attack just now was not as strong as a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial's attack, it was still very powerful. However, that was only because he did not use the 13 green lotus swords. If he had used the 13 green lotus swords and fused the profundity of the 13 green lotus swords with it, the power of his attack would have risen to a whole new level. Even then, his attack was not something a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial who had lost his celestial supreme treasure could withstand. For this reason, the 7 tribulation bodiless celestial from the Li Yen sect in the Skyline Realm, who was the person behind Rong Bo, the disciple from the Li Yen sect whom Duan Lingtian had killed, was easily killed by Duan Lingtian in just a single blow. Well, it's also because of luck. I didn't expect the incomplete legacy left behind by Li Bai, the Green Lotus Sword Celestial, would be able to fill in the gaps in the last part of the Sovereign Heart Sword that I was comprehending. It allowed me to successfully comprehend the 5th stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword, the heart and sword as one, in such a short time. When Duan Lingtian thought about this, He could not help but sigh inwardly. Previously, he had been in closed-door cultivation in the underground palace in the heaven-rank treasure vault left behind by Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial, not because he wanted to comprehend the divine ability, the 13 green lotus swords. He wanted to comprehend the 5th stage of the sovereign heart sword, the heart and sword as one. Initially, Duan Lingtian had no idea how to comprehend the 5th stage of the sovereign heart sword, the heart and sword as one. However, after he successfully passed the 9th trial in the heaven-rank treasure vault and obtained the incomplete legacy left behind by Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial, he discovered something unexpected. The incomplete legacy left behind by Li Bai might not be useful to ordinary sword cultivators. However, to Duan Lingtian, it was undoubtedly a timely help. This was because the incomplete legacy left behind by Li Bai had filled in the gaps in the process of comprehending the 5th stage of the sovereign heart sword, the heart and sword as one. With this, Duan Lingtian was able to comprehend the 5th stage of the sovereign heart sword, the heart and sword as one in the shortest time possible. Apart from that, he was also able to master the technique given to him by the 5th stage of the sovereign heart sword. 10,000 soldiers submitting to him. I want that celestial saber. Do you have any objections? Duan Lingtian asked in an indifferent tone as he stood with his hands behind his back and swept his indifferent gaze across the crowd. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, the people present on the scene smiled wryly. Objections? At this moment, how could they dare to have any objections? They did not even think about snatching the celestial saber from the 7 tribulation bodiless celestial from the Li Yen sect in the Skyline realm. Moreover, Duan Lingtian was able to kill the 7 tribulation bodiless celestial earlier. No objections. Someone quickly replied to Duan Lingtian. At the same time, he waved his hand and flattered Duan Lingan. Only Lord Duan Lingan is worthy of that celestial saber. Lord Duan Lingan, it's only natural for you to obtain that celestial saber. It's only natural. Lord Duan Lington, you're the one who's most qualified to obtain that celestial supreme treasure. Soon after, a group of people chimed in and flattered Duan Lingtian. Xuanai Zhong, let's go. Duan Lingtian did not even spare them a glance. Instead, he turned to look at Han Xuanai and Zhang Yi and called out to them, let's go. Following that, Duan Lingtian and his 2 companions continued to move according to the directions on the feng shui compass. The crowd only regained their senses after Duan Lingtian and his 2 companions had disappeared from their sight. Duan Lingtian is too terrifying, right? A 5 tribulation bodiless celestial said fearfully, with his strength, I'm afraid we won't be able to kill him no matter how many of us there are. Of course, he's capable of killing a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial with just a blow. Rumor has it that the 7 tribulation bodiless celestial he killed didn't possess a celestial supreme treasure. However, the 7 tribulation bodiless celestial he killed possessed a celestial supreme treasure. His strength is comparable to an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial who didn't possess a celestial supreme treasure. Even so, he still managed to kill such a powerful celestial supreme treasure. What kind of technique did he use? He actually managed to snatch a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial's celestial supreme treasure. How terrifying! I only know that it's the technique of Feng Qingyang, the genius sword cultivator from the Saint Province realm, who obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial during the last opening of the Beyond Heaven secret zone. However, I'm certain it's a very powerful celestial method. Such a powerful immortal technique. I wonder where they got it from. Perhaps it's the celestial method Feng Qingyang obtained from the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial? That's possible. The crowd discussed among themselves. Based on their words, they were even more fearful of Duan Lingtian. Do you think Duan Lingtian has obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial during the opening of the Beyond Heaven secret zone? Someone asked. That's possible. Many people responded. Otherwise, how could his strength be so exaggerated? Only a few people remained silent. After all, Most of them had obtained clues about the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial from the human rank treasure vault. For this reason, they were certain Duan Lingtian did not obtain the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial during the opening of the Beyond Heaven secret zone. After all, if someone obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial, the clues they obtained, the feng shui compass, would be useless. However, the needle of the feng shui compass was still pointing them in the right direction. For this reason, they were certain that the feng shui compass was still there. They were certain the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial was still there. Approximately an hour later, the group of people present had all dispersed. After that, news of Duan Lingtian's actions spread like wildfire in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. It would not take long before more than half of the people in the Beyond Heaven secret zone learned about what had happened today. Duan Lingtian killed a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial from the Li Yen sect? Moreover, he killed the celestial supreme treasure that the Li Yen sect had just obtained? Somewhere in the Beyond Heaven secret zone, an old man's expression changed drastically. Based on what I know, the Li Yen sect only sent a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial this time. Furthermore, that old man's strength was on par with mine. If I were to face him who had obtained a celestial supreme treasure, I'd definitely lose. Also, he attacked Duan Lingtian to avenge their Li Yen sect's disciple, Rongbo. I remember Feng Man, a disciple from the Thousand Battle sect, was killed together with Rongbo from the Li Yen sect. Don't tell me, the purple-clad young man I saw in the mirror image is the rumored Duan Lingtian. This old man was none other than Feng Man who was killed by Duan Lingtian together with Rongbo. He was from the sect. He was also the strongest person from Feng Man's sect who had entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone. He was a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. He was the first to learn about Feng Man's death. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.